And we are live.
All right.
Participate.
Sir. It's 4:30 on Monday, February 22nd, 2021. I call this workshop of the Keystone Independent School District to order. At this time, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Brian Kubaugh. Here. Mr. Stephen Kreitz. Here. Mr. David R. Garcia. Mr. David R. Garcia. Ms. Elizabeth Ramos.
Here.
Mr. James Lucy.
Here.
Ms. Delma Salinas.
Here.
And Mr. Corey Garza here. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present, and this workshop has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. This workshop will be live video streamed at http://youtube.com/VJNWLY3PBZ8. This time, do you have anything for public participation? We'll go ahead and move into the workshop. The Keystone Independent School District will conduct the workshop with the first topic of business being board policy, EIC, local proposed revisions. Dr. Bettis.
Okay, well, we brought it.
We brought back EIC local after the second revision, second reading, and went with the EIC again, looked at it, and we have removed, if you look on page 2 of 4, the part that says that summer classes would not count for dual credit. We have removed that from the exclusions. So the only exclusions would be the ones that are outlined on that paragraph.
Will they be weighted?
Yes, that's why it says exclusions. We're not excluding them.
Is that only for the beginning in 2025, or would that begin for 2022, 2023, and 2024?
Everything would start 2025 because otherwise we'd be, changing the rules of the game during the game. And apparently something like that happened either last year or the year before. And members of the DEIC committee, I guess, that experienced that said it was really a painful, very painful process. And so if we were to start it already and some kids weren't aware that this change was going to happen, it's really not fair to them.
I'm interested to know who those people were because for the committee, I don't think there was much of anybody.
Staff members, counselors at the high school.
So one or two.
Well, it wasn't as simple as, are you going to count classes during the summer? It was a question, were you going to weight college classes in total? Not just summer classes. That was very specific. And regarding changing the rules, and I just verified this with Dr. Sandoval, for the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, there are no rules because they aren't covered under the current local policy or the current EIC local. They're not covered. The last class is covered by that policy is 2021.
Exactly. So if we were to say, okay, now we're going to go ahead and count if you took classes in the summer, then the students could very easily say, well, if I would have known that, I would have taken classes in the summer.
No, we're not saying what you've done in the past. What you've done in the past is in the books, it's locked, it's in place. We're talking about for the future.
That's why we have it with cohort 25, our 8th graders that are coming in as freshmen next year.
But Dr. Perez, we don't have to wait 3 years. If I want to take a class, I'm a sophomore and I want to take a class this summer, I can take a class this summer. You can take a class this summer. Any of our classmates can take a class this summer. We're denying the sophomores, the freshmen, the sophomore, or the current freshmen, the current sophomores, the current juniors, the opportunity to start taking classes during the summer.
And so you're going to have juniors that are going to become seniors, okay, that some have taken classes over the summer and some haven't.
Those wouldn't count because that was in the past. We're looking only forward, just forward. If I didn't class last summer, we're saying.
So you're going to have a
we're tying
senior.
this to year groups.
So you're going to have a senior next year who's going to have some classes that counted and some classes that didn't.
During the summer, took classes during the summer.
That's
What
what
I'm
you're
saying is-
asking for?
No, what I'm saying is 2021's over. That class has graduated. They have their own rules. But I'm a junior. I'm not in 2021. I'm class of 2022.
Right.
I want you to throw the whole idea of class of 2022, class of 2023, class of 2024. Throw that out the door. How about I'm a student at H.M. King High School. It is now the summer of 2021, and I want to take college courses. And our policy should say, doesn't matter who you are or what class you're in, if you want to take a class during the summer, it counts.
Okay, but again, if I'm a junior right now, in the summer, if I decide to take, I don't know, whatever, English dual credit class. Okay, you're saying that would count weighted,
That could be weighted, yes.
but the classes that they took as sophomore summers, freshman summers wouldn't count.
No, because that was previous policy, previous rule, but that policy is now expired. It's out of date, or it's going to be out of date when 2021 class graduates.
So what I'd like to hear, and again, I know this policy's been going back and forth, and I know it's been pretty passionate about you, Carol. But what I want to hear, Dr. Bettis, I want to hear from your staff that are actually in the front lines, that actually see it every day with the counselors, educators that are part of this deal. That's what I want to hear about. I mean, again, are we for the few or for the masses? But again, what is going out there when it comes to either going to getting associates, getting a bachelor's degree? But again, I want to hear from your staff to see what's the best option. Again, and you're correct. Some board members have mentioned that we do set policy, and that is one of our biggest things that we do. But again, we have to trust that you all are bringing a policy that is actually equitable for everybody. So if you don't mind, I'd like to hear from some of your staff.
Sure. We have our principal here, our high school principal who's here.
Good afternoon, guys. We did talk about this at the DEIC. And one thing we did mention was the changes we made last year, right before we ran the GPA and it changed rank. And I told them that was not only a personally bad for all our students, not fair to them, but for everybody involved. So we did get a lot of communication from them and feedback from them. Now, my counselor's not here, Ms. Chapa had got caught up at school, but we had asked about how many, we don't have very many kids who take summer courses. And I don't have that number for you, but it's small. But that was the thing that we didn't want to do was, like Dr. Pettis, is change rules. And I understand Colonel Craig saying this rule's already passed, but it will still affect GPA, whereas I might have.
It's not changing the rule. There is no rule.
The rule is that they exclude dual credit classes in the summer. That's what y'all have had all these
If you were
years.
the class of 2021, it said nothing about the class of
So let me
2022,
just
23,
clarify.
24.
Let me clarify something, Colonel Price, just make sure we're on the same page. The old policy has a lot of stipulations for the 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 cohorts. But the last revision that was made does incorporate the class of 2021 and moving
Yes.
forward. So any of the policies that are in place do include the 2021 moving forward. So I do want to make sure I clear that up. Maybe I misinterpreted your question, Colonel Price, when you asked me on the way up here.
Yeah, that's not how I read it and what was provided to us. It's very specifically, it adds 2022, 23, 24. Now, we may have made an assumption that it included them, and I'm willing to accept that rhetoric or that issue, that point. If you're saying that's the way we were doing things, but this is a new year, this is a new class, and this is a new summer and a new policy. And I thought the whole idea of rewriting the policy was to fix things that have been bad for years.
Which that's what we're doing.
This is basic, ma'am, this is the same policy.
You're looking at the same policy, but
This
that's.
is the same policy, the proposed revision.
Now, moving upward, with the class of our 8th graders coming into 9th grade, they're gonna be excluded from they're not gonna be excluded, the dual credit classes,
That's one point,
okay?
and frankly, one rather
And-
small point of the whole policy.
And
But
also the
this
dual
policy very
credit
much
will count.
replicates the policy that it's replacing.
No, because the dual credit's also gonna count during the spring for the seniors, and it hadn't been. The weight had not been there.
If you change the rules with students that are about to graduate in 2 years, that means they've already taken 2 years of classes. They've already picked out what their curriculum is going to be for 4 years. We can't change the rules for this summer because we've already told them that this is what it's going to be.
No, a student can change the classes anytime they want. They don't make their schedule out 3 years in advance.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. They start with the House Bill 3, you should be already making your path. That's why it's so important that we're getting to these 8th graders with what is their pathway gonna be? Because it does establish the roadmap.
Okay, for an 8th grade, for a 9th grader, they either take dual credit class or not, they take pre-AP classes or not. That doesn't mean as a sophomore, they can't change their mind and start taking pre-AP or start taking dual credit.
True?
I'm a junior and I've taken AP classes and all of a sudden I decide, you know what? No, I want to take dual credit 1301, 1302 English this summer.
Mhm.
The fact that I took AP and maybe didn't pass the test, I can switch gears.
Mhm.
And we would probably encourage them to do so.
They can do it.
It doesn't change class rank because it's based on what I do as an individual and what you do as an individual. And if I choose this course of action and it benefits me, fine. If you choose not to do it, that's fine for you. But we're trying to grandfather things that we don't have a grandfather. We were adopted.
I've got a constituent call me complaining about the possibility of a major change on this policy. And they made a good point. This is kind of like us signing a contract. And it's also the student signing a contract. They see this come freshman year, they plan out their next score. So for a contract to be a so-called amended halfway through could throw my game plan off.
Okay, give me an example of how we throw the game plan off.
I will.
Okay,
All right. The only class that probably wouldn't be affected would be the freshman class right now, but it could be. If you have a freshman that has passed his, I'll get the word wrong, TISTSI. Okay, they've passed it. They could potentially take a class this summer, a college class. Could potentially.
they could have already taken classes.
Not as a freshman,
Yeah, they can,
not a summer class.
not a summer class, you're right.
So they could take a summer class this next summer. And suddenly it would be counted.
Yes,
All right. A sophomore could take a class this summer and it will be counted.
yes.
But he couldn't take one last year and have it counted.
Neither did any of his classmates.
I understand that, but in the grand scheme of things of planning out whether he's going to participate in band or going to be able to do this or be able to do this or take these classes at this point in time, we have now taken away from him, well, I haven't taken away, but there's an opportunity that he chose to not take a summer school class because it wasn't going to be counted and it wasn't going to be valuable to him. But now suddenly it perhaps could have been. And so we have changed the contract. The only class that we wouldn't have changed the contract on would be the freshman class. But the rest of them, I believe, by changing the rules, changing what they started with. Now, the truth of the matter is, when you start talking class ranking, okay, we've got top 10 kids. And let's say the rules changed, those 10 all got thrown out, 10 more came in. We're talking 20 kids out of the entirety of our population. And the ones who understand and really sit and plan this because they
Would
need
be those
or want
20.
to be in that,
Would be those 20.
they're gonna be, exactly. And
So
so,
let's take your position, let's take your argument and accept that on the basis. Still doesn't make a reason why we shouldn't bring the freshmen in early. We shouldn't wait 3 years if we only have to wait 2.
and see, and I don't have a problem with that, but you still have technically changed the contract. I don't think it's changed the
Well,
material.
like I was telling my constituent, like everyone always tells me, is contracts are pointless because they can be broken at any time. And guess what? We as board members have a right to amend any type of policy or a contract.
I can accept what you said. I think I can see that point. I mean, I think it's flimsy. but
I agree, it's
accept that.
shaky, but
But for a freshman, a freshman's really basically the same thing as an incoming 8th grader. They've had no chance.
to take any kind of college class.
If
that's
they
right.
wanted to take a college class, they took it. If they want to take one this summer, they could.
Right.
If the college would accept them into that course.
But sophomores, juniors, and current seniors, in my estimation, are affected.
Okay. So I could live then with, instead of saying for that amendment there, 2024, 2025, after the freshmen are in, and, I mean.
It's
it's
I
a
know we
step.
looked at that.
What's that?
I know we looked at that too.
And that's what I'm saying, Dr. Betts, I'd like to hear more from you all. And again, I understand at the end of the day where us as board members are coming from, but at the end of the day, you all are in the trenches. You all are the ones in there. I'm not, again, and I'll be the first to say that I do have a son that's at the high school. Don't get involved in his academics because I entrust that you all will do the right thing and continue to do the right thing. But again, that's why it's so important that we hear give us every scenario possible so that we can make a really good decision here tonight or coming soon, because I don't want to sit here and continue to keep on beating the can around. That's just my opinion.
If you make that recommendation as Colonel Price suggested and incorporate that class of 2024, and if you make it effective, immediately, then it is a level playing field for all kids involved.
Well, for that class, for that freshman class.
Correct, because the summer hasn't happened yet.
Yes, yes, Mr. Singh.
It's March 2021 already, the summer starts here very soon. I don't think we have a time for students to register for those summer classes. It's possible many nights here wants to take it. And also no TSI prep was in place for students have enough opportunity to take those TSI to be ready.
Well, they wouldn't even have to take a TSI required class. They could take a non-TSI required class.
No, the TSI prep, is that what you're saying? Right.
TSI, if they take non-TSI required class, I don't know what the guideline is here for.
Is the entrance class you have to take too? Take that too, the entrance class?
The Cougar class?
Yes, they could take that too, right? Without the TSI, correct?
They could take speech, they could take computer class, they could take.
Well, I-
Fine
I-
arts.
I
Fine
thought
arts
you could
require
roll
TSI.
without- with a
All you
TSI
can do, that's about it.
Well, I thought you could do-
TSI for English.
Sure, with a TSI pending, no?
No, I don't think so.
No, that is correct, that they could take Mike Luger, they could take speech, they could take the DCIS.
If we can make a decision like this month, we
Well,
could get
we're-
the freshmen.
And we're gonna have to, because at the end of the day, we've got registration coming up, we've got catalogs, and again, so I do too.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
So we're having,
call it special meeting now.
we're one scheduled for today, according to the,
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be, but I didn't see the regular meeting on there.
policy.
We don't have to. I mean, if I understand correctly, DECI is the advisory board. And this is to give us advice. We can decide, make any decision that we want.
No,
right, but it
absolutely.
has to be a board meeting to take
Yeah,
action.
to take action, and
Because we moved everything because of the weather, we moved the workshop to here and then the next meeting, with the meeting that was supposed to happen today to Monday, the first, we might not be able to, but even just letting us know something. But we've got to get this, if you're allowed to, I don't know if you're allowed to.
To do
I guess
what?
Mr. Maddox might be.
you'd have to post for 72 hours, we didn't do it, so.
The weather just didn't come.
Unfortunately, the weather, yeah, but we'll get one, we gotta get one done ASAP to get this.
Well, and I know Craig has, I know listening to him for 2 years. He just wants to make sure that these kids don't.
And I think everybody does now, I think everybody wants to do what's right for everybody.
Yeah, and we want to, we're looking at all kids. We're looking at all kids and I know it can get pretty.
I think it's more about the kids playing the game.
Well, that's what we do,
That's
unfortunately, in
exactly-
education.
If we can make a decision and get this in the books, then we'll have time for the freshmen to get them TSI prepped so they can take a summer class if they choose to.
My only issue with this policy was the summer. And then from what I've heard, now I don't know exactly every single report on this, all the tiny details and stuff. These AP classes, a lot of kids join and they they do the class, but they're kind of skating there and they don't pass the final examination or test with flying colors. And they end up getting the 10 points, which is equal to the college. And
And you're right, Ms. Ramos, but again, where do we find balance?
you would find balances by I don't know.
And I think
I
that's
know
the point we're
the
here.
best common sense here, but give AP 5 points if they take it. And then give them an extra 5 when they pass the test.
And then you jump into the point of rigor, something we don't have. Am I correct? So it's a catch 22 for us. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to continue to kick this can. And again, I know it's a hot topic, but we've got to come up with something because I don't want to continue to kick this can down 141 or 77 anymore.
If the class is taken, and it was a 10-point class when I took it last year, then it's in the books, it's in the books. But going forward, it's not a 10-point class. You buy gas this morning, it's $2 a gallon, tomorrow it's $2.10 a gallon. You're not locked into yesterday's price because that's what you bought it at yesterday. It's what's the value of the class at the time that you take it, and that can fluctuate.
So then let me ask this question.
I would even suggest that there are some AP classes we should not even be offering.
And we've already talked about that, and we've agreed that there are some things that the rigor needs to be back up. It does.
Why isn't it being done now?
Because we have the schedule in
Why is it
place.
gonna be done next year, but not this year?
Because we've already have a master schedule that was already put in place. Am I correct?
Yes, and I have copies of the master schedule, and we've looked at, it needs to be revamped. Whoever created it, whatever happened with the process of that, we're redoing that because there's a lot of classes that shouldn't even be in it. I mean, there are kids taking classes that don't even count towards HB3 or anything through their pathways. They're just classes
This is
just
the
to
master
take.
schedule we have right now.
Uh-huh.
Which
This past couple of years that I've looked at.
hasn't changed much in 10 years, ma'am.
I know, well, I guess
We're
not.
starting.
I guess not, but it is for this next year.
Here's my take on all of this, is if we were to change the numbers, say 10, 5, we could not do that until 2025. Because we have students already under that policy. You couldn't change that for even the freshmen. You could change it for the 8th grade. All right,
I don't follow you.
well, the game is underway. I mean, for the same reason you can't change it for the juniors and the seniors this year, because
I'm a freshman and I took pre-AP English 1.
Right.
And I got 5 points. All right, I'm gonna say that, I'm a junior and I took AP English 3 and I got 10 points. That's what it was this year when I signed up for the class, 10 points.
Right.
So next year, I'm gonna take AP English 4.
yeah, but 2 years ago, I would have done something different and I would have taken the college course if I had gotten, there's too much what ifs. This is the
You
contract
still
that
can
they,
take the college course, Brian.
I
You
understand,
can take AP English 4 or you can take the college course.
but you can't go changing the weight of those classes for classes that have already happened in the past.
They're already in the books what happened in the past.
I
We're
agree.
only going forward.
But going forward, you may have a junior this year who chose this path based on these weights. And had I known these weights were going to change, then I would have changed my schedule and I would have changed the courses I was gonna take. And I can't, it doesn't do me any good now to take an
You're
AP
making it
English.
sound like once I start on a path, I'm stuck on that path. I
No,
can't deviate, I can't change, I can't do, and the point is I can. The only 2 classes that are sequential, honestly, is the Englishes.
okay, but let's take English for an example. Let's suppose I start with this set of rules as a freshman.
Mhm.
These are what you're gonna grade my classes, and I choose these 4 English classes. Well, if you change the grade, the weight of these, I may not have chosen those 4 classes. I may have chosen 4 other classes going forward. And you've now kind of messed with where I've been and where I'm going. You couldn't really put this into effect until the kids from the entering 8th grade class come into place anyway. And my point is this, if it's gonna take that long to get the policy in place, that gives administration that many years
You're right.
to get the AP right. And I'm going to trust that they're gonna do it.
Well, if you gave them the
Yeah.
extra 5 for passing the test, I mean, they're still getting the 10
We're still getting
points.
the 10 by
But if you don't, then
measuring
they're
up what
only
the college
like
kids have to
We
do.
should have put in more, I mean, we're just saying, what color skates do you want this semester with this AP class? That's the way I look at it.
I can say at the university level, if you have a system for students to go to school under, and they sign up under that catalog, unless they choose to move to a more recent catalog, the university has to maintain the old catalog. So for instance, we have canceled engineering in Valley, but we still have to offer engineering courses in Valley because they started school with that opportunity. And
Well, the
you
opportunity's
can't
still
make those
there.
changes midway.
Well, no one's saying don't offer a class. What we're saying is how you weight that class can change. And if you don't like that weighting, take the other option.
I'm going to go on the stand with what Brian's saying. Again, I will take a stand and say that, again, I will trust the administration along with administrators, counselors, and the DEIC committee. And I think there was a couple of board members that attended a couple of meetings, do the right thing and bring what's right for all students. Again, I don't think there's no cookie cut approach. Unfortunately, some people will be left out. It is what it is. But I think at the end of the day, again, you all are correct as board members. We can change policy at any time. But I think we're finally getting something in place or trying to get something in place. And we're going to do what's right. Again, it's not going to be the best thing ever, but at least we have something, or going to try to get something in place and people follow it, and hopefully it goes that way. That's my stand on it.
Okay, Corey, you can say we're gonna do what's right, but that's a hard thing to say. from what you've
But
done.
Colonel, but again,
And what you
I
said,
think you're bringing things back
wrong
to
for so long.
Colonel, but we're at least moving in the right direction.
I've heard that one before.
Well, you know what? You all said there was 6 of us that sitting here in a team of 8 training. And again, that was something we all agreed on. We weren't going to continue to ponder. We were going to move forward.
And let's move forward by.
We're trying, and that's what they're trying to do. Colonel, if I'm not mistaken, did you not attend the first DEIC committee meeting?
I don't know if it was the EDI.
Did you attend the meeting or not, sir? That's
Yeah,
all I
I
want to.
did.
Okay, and again, I know you're this is very, very dear to you, and I commend you for that. But we've had several opportunities to continue to bring your facts or things or concerns of you, and we're trying. I think staff is trying, but we continue to beat them down, and they're trying. We're still in the COVID era. I understand where y'all are coming from, but we're gonna keep on going round and round and round and round and round and round to win.
Do you acknowledge the fact that what we have right now is an inequity between kids who do the dual credit?
I can tell you as a parent with a child at HM King High School, that I don't get involved, but what he told me, Dad, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm going to go on to bigger and better things regardless whether you have this or not. And I can tell you that. That's all I can tell you.
I can agree also that, my daughter's going to college right now. Depending on what professor they take, there's inequities. People know to take this professor because they're gonna skate right through it. Some others are gonna take this professor because you know what, there was no more room in this class. Why? Because it filled up. So there was this professor, it's the same subject and they're not skating, they are tumbling through. So that's gonna happen whether we have AP or dual credit or AP and dual credit. It's gonna be up to the teacher, the professor that's doing it. And in some classes, some AP classes, we have them passing their AP tests because I have the AP scores that I brought with me just in case anybody wants to see them. That it's not where we wanna be, but there are some kids actually passing the AP exams.
Percentage? More than 10%?
No, of course not. No, we know that. We know it's not. We know it's not.
We've got to be realistic as well.
Right, I'm being very realistic, very transparent. The global average, like for biology, AP biology is a 3.4. We had one student pass it with a 3.
That makes me wonder who the heck's teaching the class.
No, that's not it. That's not it. Because it's not, see, that was my first response was, well, you know, they look at the
It's the
teacher.
same for AP.
But the reality is, 2/3 of the kids in that AP class couldn't take the college class because they haven't met the standards for dual credit classes.
That may be some, but not all.
2/3.
There's a variety of reasons as to why a student chose not to take the dual credit.
No,
And
I'm
chose to
saying the
take
kids
AP.
that are in there right now, 2/3, more than 2/3 did not pass a TSI. They couldn't take a dual credit class. So AP has become their refuge class. That's where they fall into, so they can.
And that shows me a lack in our system. We didn't prepare them. KISD did not prepare them. So it's not their fault.
No, I'm not saying it's the kid's fault. All I'm saying is, it's our fault, it's the system's fault,
Right?
but we still have 7 kids who took the dual credit English class had a 100% pass rate,
And they got college credit and they got weight.
and they got their 10 points.
And now they have they have their weight also as
Yeah,
seniors
but the
in
35
spring.
kids that are in the AP class, or we can go back to the kids from last year, the 51 kids, all 51 got their 10 points, and what do we have, one kid pass? And think about it, the college kid is in a class with other college kids. So what's the level of competition in that class? They've all met.
So as a parent, what do I want my child to do? If they're looking at the future for their child and they're putting them on a path, then maybe they do want them to take the dual credit. It's okay if they're not ranked number 1 or number 2, but you know what? They're getting the college experience and they're preparing. It's gonna be a personal choice. And if I can bet you $1,000, you know, that every single high school is the same thing. It is, it's the same thing. You're gonna find inequities in the way classes are taught.
I know kids are gonna game the system, but if
And
we have
that's
the
gonna
power to
happen.
take the game away, I think we should.
We wouldn't be taking it away. We would be giving them more ammunition to play the game. Because now they're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna change my life right now because I had already planned this. But now that they changed the rules, okay, now I've got to change the rules of what I'm gonna do. So I had registered for this church retreat or something for the summer, but now I'm not gonna go to that because now I gotta take a dual credit because I know Johnny Joe right next to me is gonna be taking that class too, and we're neck and neck.
I'm more interested in seeing that the rigor gets to where the rigor needs to be,
That's the
as
root.
opposed to how many points are awarded for the individual class.
That is definitely the root of the
I think-
problem.
Can we get there, ma'am? If we don't set at least some standard for getting into class to begin with? We're asking kids that have not demonstrated an academic acumen to do AP level work, but they're in the class. In fact, they're the majority of the class. The majority of kids taking AP classes at H.M. King right now, across the board, across the entire spectrum, 9 or what, 10 through 12, the majority could not take that corresponding dual credit course.
How does the school determine whether they can be an AP? Because I had to take an actual.
And
test
that's, I mean,
No criteria.
No
teacher
criteria.
recommendation, no nothing.
College board says you're supposed to allow access to any student who wishes to pursue that. That's what college board states.
And then they hold.
And they're very strict about that, about saying that. Now, as a culture, as KISD, the way we roll, yes, we're gonna wanna set some expectations, but we gotta start in middle school. We've gotta start in elementary. And that's part of what we're planning to do. And we're hoping that kids will be much more prepared by then.
let me ask you this now, what role do you see AP playing in this? I mean, we know the 2 other schools in this county have gotten rid of AP. So what role does AP have in our overall?
And I remember I
Curriculum
asked you if
plan.
you wanted to get rid of AP and you said, no, that's not what I wanna do.
No, I'm just saying, why do you see it as being an important element? of-
Okay.
of- of
And I
piece of the
think I
pie?
have emailed you the answer to that, but that way everybody knows. Our plan is to monitor these, especially the AP histories and the AP Englishes. We're gonna be very selective in who we choose to teach it. We have to get the training done. We've got to get the training done. We've got to monitor it, et cetera. We've got to go show them examples of, rigorous AP programs that are actually working. And then let's monitor it for 2 to 3 years to see, are we gonna get there? Because our pre-AP program or honors program, now they're calling it, that's got to be rich too, because that's gonna prepare them. Well, we're already starting the mentality of, we want everybody getting exposed to TSI. Mr. Singh has been very clear about that. Starting in 8th grade, starting with even some scaffolding, some warm-up activities where they're being implemented. But that's a whole culture shift. It's like a paradigm shift. It's like you have to start thinking that way and getting them either college or career ready. It doesn't happen overnight. Definitely not with the kids that y'all have had for 12 years. Okay, 11 years, 10 years. That's a lot of years of these students not being developed there. So that's not gonna change overnight, I'm sorry. And if we do change the rules, we're not wanting to leave anybody out. That contract, or however you wanna say it, If we change it, it is gonna leave some kids out. If we don't change it, then everybody's on the same level playing field until they graduate. It's a code word.
Again, when you have, it's not a level playing field because we know that AP has become institutionalized as, I'll just say bluntly, an easier way to go. When you got 35 kids taking
And that is their
AP
choice.
history,
If the
and 7 taking the dual credit.
And if
we're
the
paying
students
for
who
dual
chose the
credit.
dual credit chose to do the dual credit
Yes.
and not the AP, do
And
the easy
And the
skating
12
class.
kids who could have taken the dual credit chose the AP. And I'm, because here's the thing, the median grade in the AP English 3 class is a 91. So we have a class where more than half the kids are making an A. If a general ed teacher had half their kids making an A in, say, Algebra 1, what would be your expectation for them passing the end of the course test?
Exactly.
100%.
And we
But
know
got
that.
91 kids, we got 90, or over half the kids making a 91 or better in the class. And we'll be darn lucky to get two to pass the test at the end of the year, which tells me even within the class, rigor aside,
It's
the grading
accountability.
skewed.
It's
We know that.
accountability.
The grading skewed.
We know that.
And if the grade, even if the grading was more realistic, now, if you go to history, the median is 85. And so you add 10, that's a 95. And I think the best grade we had in the college history class was a 97. So my 95 with I'm the middle of the crew in the AP history class, and I still beat 6 of the 7 kids that took the college history class.
But the college history class had a choice. They chose to take the dual credit. That was their personal choice. They felt that was going to get them the college credit and the weight. AP is not guaranteed college credit at all, even if they would have passed the test, okay?
But it is
So the
guaranteed
college
10
credit.
points,
Mhm.
and it's guaranteed
That's
class
it.
ranking.
Mhm.
You
Just
see,
like the
that's
dual
thing,
credit
when we
is.
sit parents down with these freshmen coming in, and we start talking about dual credit, we don't lay it on the line. We don't say, hey, look, your kid's chance of being in the top 10 are gonna be diminished if you take this dual credit course.
But I don't believe that. I would never say that.
And I would disagree because we changed the policy as we proposed it to allow dual credit to be, we expanded dual credit. It used to be just the core dual credit courses. Now it's all dual credit courses that are counting towards it. And the 2/3 of the kids that are not passing TSI currently are only stuck with the AP courses because that's all they can take. And the kids that's taking dual credit have far more advantage over kids taking AP. When you think about it, when you look at the big picture, because these other 2/3 of the kids cannot take those AP, those dual credit courses because they haven't met TSI requirements.
And I would never condone counselors telling the students, don't take dual credit because you're not going to be ranked high. That is not correct, because I know several that have taken dual credit that are ranked high.
Well, we've had 6 kids get their associate's degrees since we started early college high school. And that means they had 60 hours. Only 2 were valedictorians. 3, I don't think even made top 5. They had 60 hours.
But
So
they got their associate's degree.
Somebody's cranking. Well, if we can jump off the AP, because I think we beat that. I did have some other questions though that were in the policy that I just wanted to just get some clarification on. The tier 3 category for CTE courses. That starts in 2025.
The 8th graders coming in as freshmen.
Okay, come in. What determines whether that class is going to get, if there's a licensing or it's a industry certification? Who makes that? Who gives that certification? I mean, is it a test that a kid takes? Is it an accumulation of hours working in the field? What's the process? Does the teacher just sign off on it?
On certain classes, Colonel Kreitz, there are completion. If you complete the course, if you've done, and you have enough credits within the program of study, it's a matter of submitting the application, you become certified. So that will qualify as meeting industry-based certification. There's other that require you pass a test, a skills test to be able to be qualified as
Like the welders
certified in that
and.
specific area.
Like
Yes,
some
so-
EKG and all those.
Correct.
Okay. Well, one thing I would like to see in the policy when it comes out is some clarification as to this course, and this is what's gonna be required. Likewise,
And that's in the course catalog that we're trying to
yeah,
finalize.
but it goes, like here I'm reading this, eligible advanced placement and dual credit courses shall be categorized. What's an eligible class? I ought to be able to find, I'd like to see that as an appendix to the policy, what the eligible classes are, what the eligible college courses are. We said all dual.
That would be in the course catalog.
So if I'm a kid and I walk in and I say, I want to count history of rock and roll.
If it's in the course catalog and if it's marked a tier 3, then that's it. But we cannot finalize that until we have this. And it will say whether, it'll denote if it's a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3.
Why did it? You gave us the memorandums we have with Coastal Bend and Tampa.
Really?
There's a memorandum and it lists every class. And if that was an appendix, then that would make it very clear a year from now, 2 years from now, what a acceptable college course would be, what a dual credit course would be.
But we can't put an appendix on a board policy. I mean, that's the course catalog and it's gonna have every single class.
Then how do we get around the interpretation question of what all means?
We're gonna direct parents to use our course catalog. We should be doing that. We should have been doing
The
that.
course catalog, do we? The board doesn't approve the course catalog.
We brought it to the board on the 25th.
I've never seen one, to be honest with you, of course.
And they did bring it to the board, but it was contingent upon our policy being
Right.
approved. So therefore, I didn't know how that could be approved. The policy hadn't been approved. So we gotta,
It hasn't been approved.
I
Now
would
it
like to
has to
see,
be approved. It
I would
has to
like
be.
to see.
It just has to be.
Crossed. Because
That's
that's,
part of the information item on the 25th.
and another question I have is, there's other classes at the high school that produce, I won't use the term industry certification, but they do produce a certification that's recognized nationally. Where if you've had that class or you've had that program, you've had that training, you go in to that field or that business at an advanced level.
Right.
Would those be eligible for the 10 points as
We're
well?
using the list of, based off the TEA, industry-based certification. I think it was published in June 2020, and that's the list we go by, the list, and it does get updated every 2-3 years,
Okay.
and that'll be the list.
So what I'm specifically thinking about is the kids who do 4 years of ROTC. They go in at a significantly higher grade. To me, that would be very similar to an industry certification where you go to your employer and say, here's my quality certification, or here's my LBM license.
Yeah, we haven't been able to get ROTC as a certification.
That'd be more of a state mandate, right?
Program.
What?
I know, Colonel, I can't pronounce the last name.
Right.
Troy,
Troy have discussed that with us in regards to it being, considered CT course. It's not an actual CT course.
No, and it shouldn't be a CT
As
course, but
identified.
but it does provide a national certification that's recognized by all 5 military
And
services.
that's something that I wasn't aware of, Colonel Clarkson. That's.
And that's what, I know that Colonel Troy was trying to do some research about that for us.
Yeah, he was asking us about making a CT, identify a CT course, and we can't identify it as a CT course because it doesn't fall within the program studies.
No, but it does carry another one that caught my eye on the course catalog was I noticed that we were weighting honors band as a tier 2. Was that a mistake or was that by design?
If it's an honors class, it should be a 5.
It's only an honors because that's what we call it. We could call it varsity band and then it would
I
be. an
don't
honors
recall
band.
that, Mr. Singh, is he here? What do you remember in regards to honors band? I don't remember that being a tier.
It's a tier 2 in the course catalog,
It is on the.
but it's only a word. I mean, we don't have honors in football.
Well,
But
there
would
should
that
be
be a
some
similar
requirements. It's
comparison?
like pre-AP. It's like pre-AP English, pre-AP
I
math.
understand, but the honors is what's carrying the 5 and it's no different than your varsity football team. They don't get 10 extra points or 5 extra points.
I don't know if that's been the practice, Colonel Clark, to be honest, but I agree with you that distinction should not be the same way we carry that, pre-AP or the
Or
honors.
geometry or
Because
something.
it is just an honors band, it's a beginner's band, it's just a title. It's not an actual.
So it's in the course catalog that you gave us the other night. I missed it the first time around.
And I
It's
did
a
have
tier
a question
two.
for Mr.
For
Malater.
old timers around here, about 15 years ago, we had an honors band and they did get 10 points. And when a brave principal stepped forward and said, why are we doing that? You had board members that were acting like that you were going to castrate the bull on the 50-yard line if we took that out. And it did, it left, but it didn't leave easily. And it looked like, I go, oh, it looks like it's creeping its way back in again. Because that is an incredibly unfair advantage to a student who happens to make honors maybe their freshman year, and they suck up those points for 4 years. And there was a time when top 10 was predominantly the band, because they'd gotten honors credits for the last 2 years of their high school, because they were in the honors band, and they got the 10 points. And the only reason it fell away was when the comparison was made, so honors band is equal to calculus.
Well, we haven't even finalized the course catalog. We
Please
did
look
bring
at
it
that,
as an
because
update.
I did catch my eye, and I'm afraid if it hits schedule, then we'll be living with honors band for the next 4 years.
Yeah, there's a lot of
We
combing
can't change the
through.
rule once we pass it.
No, there's a lot of combing through we still have to do.
Anything else when it comes to the EIC local? Dr. Benson, when we're telling you today to you and your staff, when are you looking to come with the recommendation?
Monday,
Okay.
as soon as we possibly
If
can.
there's any board members that have any, I'm not cutting anybody off. If there's any other questions you may have, you just email them to Dr. Pettis, and she's really good about responding. Again, I'm not cutting anybody off.
You know what AP courses will be offered next year?
I don't have the course catalog in front of me. That's one thing I didn't bring.
Okay. Because in the course catalog, we had a bunch that I don't recall on the.
In the course catalog, you can have them all, everything that TEA offers, but if we don't have it on our course plan sheet, which is something we talked about, because there were some things, again, on the master schedule that we don't want them taking again. They don't count towards anything. Food tech, for example, okay? So we're not putting them on the course plan sheet. That's not gonna be a choice for them, but it is a TEA course.
I guess finding out like AP human geography, I noticed was on there.
Yeah, we're looking very
Honors
closely
band
at
caught my
that.
eye.
We're looking at the AP histories and the AP English that we're gonna focus on monitoring.
So you don't see an AP human geography coming back to the play?
I can't tell you that right
How
now.
about AP world history?
World history is a possibility, but we're
Well,
looking
that's
at,
currently offered.
we're gonna look at the staff, looking at the staffing, and then the APSI, whatever's offered in the summer for APSI, the Summer Institute, to see what they can go to, and then, but the sooner we can get this lined out, and then the course catalog, and then the course plan sheets, then we can.
And the one other question I had, and I just asked out of ignorance. We had about a third of the kids in AP English 4 have not passed the TSI. Are they also in the college prep English class?
No, not
So we
necessarily.
pull kids out of regular English because they hadn't passed the TSI, so they could not have to be in remedial classes when they graduate. And I'm just wondering if we're gonna have kids in AP English 4 who
This year,
this year.
the
currently
kids who are there this year, we've either given them TSI prep, or we put them in the college prep English, correct?
Maybe the Colonel, they would have.
We put the AP students have remained in the AP courses, but we did pull other courses to other students who met the requirements to be
They were
the,
out of English 4 classes though.
yes,
Okay, these kids aren't in English 4, they're in AP English 4, but they're really no different than the kids in the regular English class. They're basically,
The focus has been on TSI prep for them. Mr. Singh has been working on that with them.
but you have kids in the AP class that, are they getting TSI prep too?
That's what I'm saying.
I think it'd be kind of embarrassing when they graduate, they go to TAMU, they've got 4 years of advanced English at the high school, and they're still going into a remedial English class.
And that's what I said. They're getting TSI prep in both AP, college prep, regular Englishes, all the way down to 8th grade.
Also keep in mind, Colonel, that there are other things that they can meet CCMR
Yeah, the
requirements.
They score high enough on their,
So it's not only be the TSI standard, so.
but they would have
They have a
already
certification.
taken their in the course English 3 test. So if they made a high enough score there, they'd have made it.
Correct.
If they made a high enough on their ACT or SAT, they would have made it. But when I asked very recently, they were still coded as not having.
They may have not passed their TSI, but they may have passed their TSI math. Or there could be another.
Okay, maybe the math, but they didn't pass their English, and that was the class that they were in. I mean, it's. Dr. Brooks, I know it's messed up, and it's been messed up for years, and it's not gonna get fixed overnight, I get that. It's just,
I think we wonder. or, you
it's
know,
just, yeah, you
you're
wonder,
here
it's
now,
frustrating,
what about
because
tomorrow?
you do see kids that are taking the harder route. And I think too often they're being stepped over by kids that took an easier route.
And I understand that as a parent. I saw that with my own child last year. She just graduated. Some ranked higher than her because they took the easier route. And it's painful as a parent. I understand that. I mean, it kills you, you know, or they just missed this, or they
I don't know
just
what
missed
you can
that.
do about it as a parent, but I do know what you can do about it as a board member.
What?
Entrusted the academic team does what's right.
Frankly, trust is what got us here.
Okay, but we're bringing up the past again, and until you
Yeah.
give us time to fix.
You missed the training today. You would have been really good for everybody.
I don't know if it's so much about the past.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it's a lot to do with the future too, because you talk about getting these.
It's
things, like you talk
institutionalized.
about Increasing the, rigor. We all wonder, are you gonna be here when that happens? Or when we try to keep it in place, we're just trying not to see it fall apart, is everybody gonna be here to pick up the pieces?
Well, I don't think anybody has a crystal ball.
Normal thing.
You're not gonna see,
You're not gonna see it.
for 12 years.
You're not gonna see it.
I know.
Well, I got a crystal ball for the next 3 years. It's gonna be 12.
Hopefully you'll
It
win.
looks not like the last 3 years.
I think we need to give the educational team a chance
To do what's
to
right.
do what is right. Because we're gonna be here back and forth for days. We can be here all year. We need to trust them.
It's not a question of
They know
trust.
what
We can
they're
do all the trusting we want, but we can do it on a 5-5 system. But we can do all the trusting we want. And then when it's fixed, we can say, okay, it's 10 again. I just kind of like to see, we spend a lot of money on AP classes and AP testing and FTEs to teach the AP classes. And the return on investment there is zilch.
That's why you're gonna see the Tasbo deal in a second.
What would be the fallback on giving tier 3 5 points and then giving them what they earn an extra 5 points to make it 10 at the end of the year? How is that a negative impact on this policy?
I can answer that question. The score doesn't come back till the June, end of June, and the kids already graduated.
Well, maybe for the seniors, but not for the juniors and not for the sophomores and not for the freshmen.
That won't be fair game for
Fair for who?
everyone.
For those seniors.
For the seniors.
Okay, for a senior, if they're taking calculus, give them 10 points.
Again, you're being selective.
Yes.
We've got to be
Are we for
fair
the
across the
masses?
board. Are we here for the masses? Exactly. We've got to be fair across the board.
I'm a junior, I'm in English, I took English 4 in junior year, so I got the 4 points, and Dr. Sandoval took English 4 in senior year, he only got 5 points. So,
You took English for when?
as a senior year, you can.
Your junior year?
Senior year. So you will take the same course in 2 different years, you get 2 different points.
There are many different scenarios that can happen. That's just it. There's so many different scenarios.
And again, I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm. But again, if there's any questions that anybody does have or any concerns, please email them as soon as possible to Dr. Pez and her staff so that we can get this ball rolling. Because at the end of the day, we have to get this course catalog put out. Because without this board policy, EIC, everything halts and we're back to square one again. Does anybody have anything in the audience, anything when it comes to board policy, EIC local, anything else?
What's a reasonable? Dr., with 3 years from now, I think you've had a chance to change the culture and what would you consider to be a reasonable passing rate on the AP test? Let's say AP English 3.
3. Why? Because globally,
No,
that's the average
percentage wise, but the kids, what would be a reasonable?
of the students taking it
Yes.
in 3 years.
Mhm.
I can hope for 50% will make it 3 or above.
That makes us right about the national average then.
Mhm.
And that's a start because we at least have some number to hit. And again, I cannot stress enough, and like I said, I sound like getting on the dead horse or kicking the can, but we've got to continue to go forward and stop looking back in the rearview mirror. That's the only way we're gonna get this. And I can tell you, again, in talking to some of my constituents, that the grades are starting to change. Things are starting to move forward. So thank you, each and every one of you all. And that's from the board all the way down to everybody, from administrators, teachers, staff, people out there, our maintenance people, everybody, because that's how we're starting to change culture. But it's by getting a good policy in place that we're fixing to get done and trusting that, you know, again, we were gonna do what's right for all students. So if anybody doesn't have anything else, we'll go ahead and move on to item number B, academic calendar 2021-2022, draft option number 1 and draft option number 2. Is there any way possible we can get that up on the overhead?
For the reading and training.
Dr. Pettis? I think we can get that up there.
Yes, and we actually, Dr. Vasquez made some large print.
Yeah, because I have cheaters or readers. They call them readers. I call them eaters.
Draft 1 and draft 2.
There's option 1, option 2, Dr.
What's our
It is in your book, but we just made it. Excuse me?
the minute number?
13, what's the minutes, 13?
It's 78,930 are what we have in the calendar. It's 76,500
76,000.
that's required, but they're recommending that you have about 2,000 minutes over.
And I think that gives it an additional, was it 6.7 days?
I think so.
In addition to what we're required to have by state. So we had those embedded into the calendar. We had to do snow days or
Weather days?
Weather days.
Unexpected, what it is.
The DEIC did meet. We had first of all sent it out for any suggestions, any recommendations. And during the DEIC meeting, there were a couple of things that just came out. Really, one was considering a 9-week calendar. So that's what option 2 is. Another thing that came up was the day after Easter. That was another hot topic, is could we have the day after Easter as a holiday and take away one of the stock show days? And, but more of secondary was really, concerned about that because that leaves fewer, I guess, than 2 weeks to prepare for that STAR test that comes up immediately for them. So it's a different time for them. So in the end, they all voted and kept this.
What day was that?
Which was April 18th would have been the Monday after Easter.
Okay. And they're looking at.
And because STAR test starts May 3rd, they really wanted to make sure they had enough time with the kids.
And I know in previous calendars that we've seen, that was been a hot topic,
Yeah.
was that day after, because we're like, whoa, wait a minute, we need to get as much in cram.
Right.
I have a question. Is it the law or policy that a board votes on instructional calendar vote?
Have to, if I'm not mistaken.
TA requirement?
I think it's if I'm not mistaken, it's a TAD. They have to adopt the calendar. If I'm not mistaken, but I'll find
Mr.
out.
Maddox is here.
Mr. Maddox?
Yes, sir. The various board
He's
members.
muted.
I think you're muted.
It's always coming to the board prior, Ms. Ramos, I can tell you that, but.
I know, I've seen it, I just wanted to know if it has to be that way.
Mr. Maddox, can you hear us?
I can. Was the question, does the calendar come before the board?
Yes, is it a requirement?
Yes, the calendar is typically adopted by the board.
Is that a law?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is that a law? Is Is that a law? Is it a TA law or Texas law or policy?
Oh, the authority for adopting the calendar? Yeah, typically it's under your policy as a board function. I'll pull it up for you.
So it's gotta be in our policy that we adopted the
Is this a law though, or is this just
I don't know, he's gonna look it up.
policy?
Again, I don't know, but I can tell you that every district in the state does it, but again, I don't know.
Is, between the two, it looks like the 6-week calendar, 88 and 83 days across the semesters. But on the 90-day calendar, it's 76 and 95. That's a pretty big difference between two semesters. Is there?
Because of when it starts and when it finishes.
Well, one finishes in January, the other one finishes in December.
December, right. The ones that finish in December is gonna be a shorter semester than the spring.
I don't think we have that many semester courses, so it probably really doesn't have that much of an impact overall.
Are those calendar days or are those teaching days?
Instructional days.
The 47 days would be?
It's instructional days.
How many PD days do you have?
So what's the advantage of a 6 to a 9? Is there is one better for one reason or another?
You have varying,
We proposed, we took one option to the committee to get feedback from the faculty and the staff, bring it back to the DIC so we can discuss it. There was a lot of pros, and some of the pros that were suggested were that they like the 3-day weekends every month, where we embedded some staff development. Students in school on Veterans Day for celebrations. They like Super Bowl Monday and Stock Show that we could have back in early February. They like early release before Christmas and last day of school. They like the aligned holidays with colleges, which was a pro that was recommended at the meeting, but it's actually not correct. There is not alignment with our calendars, but not, at least spring break there's not. And the 6 weeks cutoffs. They liked the fact that every 6 weeks cut off at a perfect time in terms of when it concluded. Some of the cons were that one
I think
representative.
he wants to know like the cons, the pros and cons of 6 week
6
and
versus
9
9.
week.
Yeah, 6 versus
Well,
9, not.
That's what I was gonna get to. One of the cons was that from high school, they felt that the high school did not break with the college semester because we were finishing in mid-January instead of late
Yeah, that's
December.
true. That's always been an issue.
And so the committee made a motion that was seconded. They voted on making a second calendar with a 9-week schedule versus a 6-week, which was, and so from option 1 and 2, Colonel Price, the only thing that really changes is your grading cycles for the most part, and when your first and second semester begin and end.
Will this have an effect on UIL as far as those kids that are borderline not?
We would have to change the UIL checkoffs, and that's what,
Would they be on their own timeline of grading, or how do you make sure that you're not losing it, or you're allowing a kid to play when they don't deserve it?
they should be checking them every week anyway.
At the beginning, we send our calendar off to Dr. Mark Cousins from UIL. He approves it, sends it back, and then we put it out.
So there's the accountability.
We still need staff to vote on it and parents, but we wanted to bring it to you all to see if there's anything that you're,
How does that work for you?
Madam President, can you hear me?
The 6 weeks, you're out for 3, you come back at week 9. Or week 9, week 10. But if you're on a 9-week, you fail at 9 weeks, you're out for the playoffs.
That's what,
There's no recovery.
and football is beautiful though, Colonel.
You like that?
Well, if you see most of them, and quote me if I'm wrong, if you talk to a lot of athletic directors and UIL people in the football realm, they're all, pretty much everybody's doing the 9-week, am I correct, Coach? They love the 9-week because of what you just said.
And
Okay.
teachers and.
From a teacher's perspective, I kind of like the idea of only having to do grades twice every 9 weeks rather than 3 times every 9 weeks.
Right.
Or you're gonna make them do grades, progress reports every 3 weeks anyway.
Gotta have to,
Every 3 weeks?
every 3 weeks.
Why couldn't they do one at the fourth or fifth week mark?
That would be the next thing we look at. Depends on which route we're gonna
We
go.
have to look at it.
One thing you have to consider when thinking of that 9-week calendar is for UIL purposes, you need that 3-week to let you know that failed to be able to be reinstated once they pass that grading
So
period.
it's gonna be stuck to the 3-week, so it doesn't change the teacher's life one way or the other.
Right.
Okay.
Because now they would extend that stay where they're ineligible.
Do we have any courses that are offered just in the fall or just in the spring? Do we have any semester courses?
Education code
Not outside of blue credit.
EB local.
Yeah,
What-
speech and health, if we're still gonna offer those, we're still gonna offer those?
We don't need help. It's not required anymore by the state of Texas. Right?
Well, we haven't been required for the last, what, 5 or 6 years, but we kept on offering it every year.
That's what I'm saying. This master schedule is not good.
And that's why something we'll bring up as we go to the calendar and as we get to TASBO, something Dr. Bez and I spoke about is she will be putting up a calendar up on top to kind of display where some of the strengths and weaknesses are and why she's doing the determinations. Am I correct?
On the top of what?
On some, when it comes to the master schedule we were talking about.
Oh,
The
yes.
whiteboard,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
sorry.
Why are we giving a holiday on the 7th of February?
Day after
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl's on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we've gone round and round and you're correct. We've beaten that can too.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is there's the absenteeism from from students, staff and faculty is crazy.
Is that like half, right?
You're correct. You're correct.
So we're figuring out a way to teach our students through our teachers and our both staff and student holiday, that this is the way that the world works. So they're gonna have the day off after the Super Bowl.
I know, I saw a news article about
Now
that.
you take an
You
ADA.
take ADA and get a beating.
Take an ADA.
So you're correct, but our ADA was just, it was pathetic. Because we're bringing in subs, and it was just costing way too much, and we just looked at it, it was a better thing to say, you know what? Rejuvenate, eat enough lamb, turkey, whatever you need to do, let's come back. Let's talk show.
It was really more of a money driven.
Yes, money driven, yes, sir, you're correct.
I just want to go on record that I have a problem with that because I think we're teaching the students that they get to control when they're going to work. And we have now got a problem where we have too many teachers. Well, use this as a criteria. You don't continue to work here if you're going to take that day off.
Well, I think they passed a policy prior to us getting on the board that they can choose when to leave. They don't have to have any kind of excuse. They don't have to put their boss.
No, but we just had a from the superintendent, we heard that attrition was going to be how we were going to remove teachers. Okay, I think we ought to remove the bad teachers, not just give all the teachers free rein. And I think this is a situation where we ought to say the good teachers are gonna be there. The people that don't want to teach, I mean, they've just had 5 days off.
And again, we can always amend it, and I agree with you, but again, at the end of the day, it was more of an ADA, it was a business decision.
I thought that's what we're doing right now, is we're looking at the 2 different options, and both options have Monday off. And that's why I felt like I need to bring it up now, because we're supposed to choose between which option. Or bring up our comments. That's my comment.
You're right.
And they'll all come with doctor's excuse.
Okay.
And you can't get rid of somebody because of a doctor's excuse. I mean, it's every system we have is gonna be gamed. And we can't fix it.
And I did see on the Today Show, they were talking about Super Bowl Monday and how the attendance rate at not just schools, like businesses. And that made me think, oh my gosh, maybe that's why Kingston has
why we did it.
Super Bowl.
That's why we did
Are
it.
we teaching them that is acceptable?
I think we should go to the NFL and say, what the heck are you doing on a Sunday? Let's do it on a Saturday. And they'll miss church.
Now they need to go.
I'm just bringing.
No, you're good.
Yeah, definitely. We all agree with you. Yes, we all agree with you. Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
My biggest thing again is again, I know you're gonna come back with a recommendation to the board, but again, I've been a huge advocate of, I just want to make sure that we have enough PD and strong PD for our staff. Because I know that's something that's been going on for a long time. I just want to make sure they have, our staff and teachers have ample time to have good PD when it comes to the calendar that you bring forth.
Yes, and this summer, we were gonna do some curriculum writing and planning for that, and I think we'll be much more ahead, and we're gonna come with some suggestions about summer school as well, and how we wanna kind of revamp that a little bit and do it. And hopefully we'll be better off, when we kick off next year, instead of kicking it off during COVID at the last minute.
And again, this is just a draft.
They should probably be both of them. They should be coming to the board probably the next month.
Yes, what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up voting tomorrow. We wanted to bring this to y'all, open up voting tomorrow on the website and start spreading the word and try to get all that tabulated by the last day, maybe March 15th. So we can bring it for March 22nd, I think is the board meeting. That would give everybody ample time.
And one thing I'd like to say is I know that our staff, as far as maintenance, bus drivers, et cetera, our custodians, they're on a different calendar. But I'd like for you to hopefully bring that as forward as well and try to get some of those young gentlemen and ladies involved in the calendar as well, for their calendar, because again, it's two separate calendars, am I correct? Because they go 227 or 226, something like that.
That'd be the work day. So this is
40.
this is the instructional
Right.
calendar.
But when it comes to them, I'd like to get some more input from them, the troops on the ground.
Okay. Jacob. Okay, Jacob.
Thank you. Anything else when it comes to the calendar, the academic calendar?
What was the law, the education law? You said 25.5?
Going back to your question, as far as to be adopted by the policy, it'd be the Texas Education Code 25 and it'd be under a policy under EB legal terms.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome. All right, we're going to move to item C, facilities, vehicle, and equipment update.
Dr. Pitts.
You have a PowerPoint, Dr. Pitts?
Yes, we're gonna put it up. right
Awesome,
now.
thank you so much.
So while the PowerPoint is getting up, the purpose of this update is to let you know the district needs that we have for facilities, for vehicles, for large equipment across the district. This is something that is necessary in order to put together a long-range plan so that we can get the district the equipment and vehicles that are needed to perform school functions and to get our facilities in working order so that we can service our students. So the first slide that you see is our vehicle fleet. Currently, we have 21 buses. And you see there that 11 of them are in good condition, about half of them are in good condition. And then you see the others that that break down a lot and need a lot of repair work and are expensive for us.
Bus 43?
Everybody has this PowerPoint in their books. Yes, PowerPoint.
So
Not that you said it.
eventually these are gonna need to be replaced. Or we're gonna need to get on a lease program. You look at our pickup trucks that maintenance uses all the time. We have 15 pickup trucks and 2 of them are really in very bad shape. Thank you very much. You see the vans. Vans are used by many different departments. Sometimes they're used by the CTE department to go on trips or athletics or special education. So sometimes they're used by our staff if several staff need to go to a workshop.
Can I stop you?
Yes, sir.
How many buses again you said we had total in our fleet?
21.
21, thank you, sir.
And we have 1 box truck. That box truck is used by food service to deliver the necessary food and supplies. So that's where we are with our fleet right now. And if you look at the vehicles that are in poor condition, 4 buses, 2 pickups, and 5 vans right now, that those are our most dire needs. Now, everything that I present right now, we don't have the money to replace them right now. We're gonna look at the TASBO study and look at ways we can save money so that we can get a balanced budget and then start to put together a long-term plan to replace some of our used vehicles and repair some of our facilities.
When you say Mountain View's buses, for example, you say good, right? Is good defined as years, how old it is, how many miles it has on it? What makes good good?
Right now,
What makes good
it doesn't break down.
So then my question to you all would be, what types of checks and balances do you all have?
I wish we could throw this one after the next topic.
I mean, because again, I mean, the $1 million question is what kind of checks and balances do we have to make sure these buses are up and running?
Well, we perform maintenance on them, routine maintenance.
But I can tell you for the whole time of COVID, they were sitting idle, which again, diesel bits, and I know we got into a big, remember them? Brian, we had to pay all that money because we weren't running those buses stayed idle. And I guess my point is that there has to be a good checks and balances when it comes to maintenance, make sure they're dotting i's, crossing t's every 3 months, whatever they do, those things. Because again, it's just, I think again, I shouldn't bring up the past, but we've got to move forward and have some type of checks and balances to make sure that they're up and operational.
Is there a maintenance cycle, I guess?
So
There you
we
go.
can, yeah, we can bring the criteria from Matt Betta for the next meeting if we want to do that, or the next board workshop. But right now, this is just to kind of give y'all an
Okay.
idea of where we stand. We're not making any decisions about this. It's just kind of letting you know, okay, these are some big things that we wanted y'all just to be aware of for right now.
On a given normal school day, how many buses are going out a day? On a
Well,
normal,
pre-COVID.
pre-COVID, normal school day,
13 regular education, 4 special education
so on any given day, we got 17
out of the 21 that are
21 going
operational.
in. So the
Correct.
good and the fairs better hit the road because
But then sometimes we have an extracurricular activity during the day, so we'll need one of those extra buses there.
And the corollary to his question about how good is good, how poor is poor.
We want to know how
Right.
safe they are, really the safety.
Right.
They have to come back with homework.
There is a variation, obviously. But this, as Dr. Pettis stated, this is just a summary. We brought to you exactly how many vehicles we have and just kind of a summary, but we can delve into a lot of these a little bit later on. But right now, again, we don't have the money to purchase,
But if
20
something
buses.
were non-functioning, you wouldn't have it on this list.
If it was not safe or non-functioning, we wouldn't have it on this.
Got it.
But there are some of those that are in bad condition that do break down and then they need to be repaired. We just had one last year that needed a brand new engine.
The infamous bus 43, buddy.
That's still cheaper than purchasing.
so 11, 6, and 4, is there another 3 or 4 back there, hanger queens just in the corner or that we don't know about?
What do you say?
A hanger queen, that's a plane that you use to keep the other planes going.
Yeah, for parts.
For parts.
We have done that with a lot of our vehicles.
Bus
We have
43,
scaled
what?
them for parts, yes.
Our personal vehicles while we're in this meeting.
No, I mean, it's just, I'm just wondering, I thought, when I sold that, we got 21 buses, I thought we had more than 21
I don't know.
buses.
Do they logbook these buses and bus repairs?
Sure, there's a log, is that not, I'm sure there's a log that they perform daily on the buses.
There's a maintenance log.
What I can tell you is we've probably been very, very lucky. I shouldn't say this, but the DPS hadn't come to to be brutally honest with you.
Well, and what kills us is that we have such a silly UIL district.
We do.
Yes.
Well, I think also what's happening is that we're not using the bus to its full potential per trip either. Also, I see some of the buses sometimes where you have one student in the bus. That's why with TxDOT, when we run our buses, when we try to, now, COVID, we're not able to put so many on, but pre-COVID, we had, the more people we put on our buses for a one trip was saving us money. So that's what I think we're seeing now, but I know we're still in that COVID mode, that I think looking at that in the next year would possibly be able to, instead of using one bus for 2 stops, maybe 3 stops, or things like that.
You're right, Mr. Garcia. We are looking at revising our bus routes. Right now, we have buses that just take the go to a neighborhood and pick up students and take them to an elementary school. And a separate bus that goes to the same neighborhood, picks up kids and takes them to the intermediate school. So there, I wouldn't recommend this, but there's actually some school districts that one bus goes to the neighborhood and drops them off at every school from, you know, kinder all the way through 12. That's not to say that I would recommend that, but we are looking at maybe putting the intermediate and the elementary school on the same route. And that would save, that would definitely save some money. And so right now, if we can do that and eliminate some of the buses from the routes, then we don't necessarily need to replace the 4 buses right away because we're using less buses.
We do want to look at the age group of the kids that are on the buses though. I don't know if, you know, I want an 8th grader, they were the 1st grader, you know, so some of those things we have to look at too.
Are these buses all the same kind of bus?
No. Some are of the large buses. There are 6 buses of those that are smaller than are the full-size bus.
How many handicap buses do we have?
There are 6 potentially that could be used.
How many of those have a lift?
How many of those have a lift? I am not sure out of that. That's
Are
something
any of those in the 4 category?
I- I can, any of the 6 that for special education, they're in the pocket.
Just for distribution purposes, I mean.
We
have 4 buses, but 3 of them are this category.
I can get more detailed.
So if you could, Dr. Pitts, can you get those questions answered and send them to the board on maybe a Friday, you know, Dr. Pitts?
Sure.
I think as far as mileage as well, on each bus, year, of course.
Year mileage tells you a lot.
Yeah.
Well, but it's really no mileage.
I will get that for you.
That engine replace the mileage.
Well, we're gonna want to.
Engine mileage, the drivetrain.
This is gonna probably be a whole analysis. We just want to give you an overview, right?
Right.
So we'll get an analysis.
And that's where it comes into, and you're right, a whole analysis, and that's when you have a good biller or a good person that understands coding, and that's where you maximize dollars. Am I correct?
So let's take a look at roof repairs. So the biggest problem is in Memorial. Memorial needs a brand new roof. It is leaking in many different places. And that not only, that causes us to have to replace ceiling tiles, that causes trash cans in classrooms to get the drip so that it doesn't fall all the way over the floor. But as you can see, it's an expensive project.
Was that last year's projection or last year's spend?
No, about 2 weeks ago, myself and 2 maintenance workers went on top of these roofs with a roofing contractor. And he gave us these, this isn't an actual quote, but this is an estimate right now. So this is current as of 2 weeks ago.
Do these have to be fully replaced or can they be repaired in spots that need to be repaired?
So with Memorial, you can't, there's so many problems that you can't really repair it. I mean, we've been repairing it for years. We have a local contractor that's just basically been repairing those spots, but you run into the same problems until you get a new roof. Now, the other buildings can be repaired in the spots. So you see with the other buildings, it's not the cost of a whole new roof. It's the cost of repairing the leaks that are there. So.
From the location building.
Yeah.
Is that the ag barn?
No, that is the one that's on top of ROTC, that the farthest, the one closest to the parking lot, the one that runs parallel to the parking lot, closest to the parking lot there. There's 3 different ones. There's one that's, I guess it's in the shape of kind of a U.
Yeah.
But the one that's closest and parallel to the parking lot is the one that is in worst repair. But that's one that.
Who's in there now?
It's mostly vacant. There's just, I think, the range is there for our.
There's only I know of.
Right, exactly. And I've looked at the underneath. If you look from the classrooms, it is all kind of decayed away. A decision has to be made on whether it's worth even doing that for that building there. So we would have to do a further study. You look at the maintenance shop, it does leak in several places. That is the cost of putting a metal roof on there. There are 2 parts of the maintenance area. One is the area where all the vehicles and shop is, and one's the area where they store the tractors that is new, and that doesn't need to be replaced. But $70,000 to replace that. There is a leak in a few classrooms there, and it's all in one area. Gillette, there is a leak in a few classrooms and also by the entranceway, and then Harvey, it leaks by the skylight.
School 10 years.
Which one?
Gillette.
What?
No, it's out of 10.
It's
Because
15.
we hired a firm right at the end of the 10, and Harvey was a little before that even.
Okay, 11, 12, 13. The point is, roofs ought to last longer than 15 years.
Sure.
When talking with the contractor, when we do repairs, we can get up to 15 years a warranty.
Yeah, but we had somebody build a brand new building. I'm assuming you put a brand new roof on that brand new building. I hope we get more than, that just seems like an awful quick turnaround on a roof.
The statutory warranty is generally 10 years, and that's why we got the firm before to look at it right at the end of the 10 years.
So moving forward in the next years, this is something that'll need to be addressed in most of our facilities. If you look at the next slide, our HVAC.
Can I stop you? So you're telling me that Clayburgh has no roofing issues?
None that have been reported to me.
Interesting. Wow.
We did have some leaks in one of the hallways.
Yeah, we're missing Harold. I mean, Clayburgh. It's the oldest school there. No, but we got them all. Harold. Harold's old too. No issues? Wow.
We got the windows, there was window issues.
How to build the schools back in the 50s.
I'm telling you, dude, don't close them. Don't close them.
So let's move on to our HVAC. We have aging HVAC equipment, and we probably spend somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 a year on repairs to our HVAC equipment. So it's very expensive to repair, but really a lot of this equipment is old and needs to be replaced. Now, the best way to do this is to put together a maintenance tax note, which we have done in the past. It's a loan that you pay off every year, and you are guaranteed that the savings in energy will cover the cost of the loan. The cost to do this is in the millions of dollars. So normally you get, the last time we did this, we had a 15-year loan. We have 2 years left that we're paying off on it, and right now we're paying about $169,000 a year. But again, you are guaranteed that the amount that it's going to decrease in energy will cover your payment every year. And if it doesn't, then the company that does the work, they kick in the difference so that you are not out of any money out of pocket.
Time.
This, yes.
All right, who's guaranteed, number one, if it's the company that did the work, God help us, because how many companies gonna be here 15 years from now to do this kind of work? Number two, how do you know it's gonna pay for it in energy savings? Because last year in June, my bill was 50, and this year, Jim, my bill was 50, but is 100 degrees on 15 days in this year's June and only 13. I mean,
Right.
Is this?
I have an answer
real?
to that. So I specifically asked about it. So our current loan is with Schneider. They're the ones that did the work. And everything is run on a model that takes into account average daily temperature. So that is how they try to compare apples to apples to see if you're actually saving money. Because like you said, if you have 1 year where it's 100 degrees and another year where it's 90 degrees, you're not comparing apples to apples.
Okay, so for the past 13 years, somebody has looked every month to make sure that the savings was.
Yes,
adequate?
Schneider Electric has.
Am I the only
Hell,
one
they're
that
not
goes
gonna
in these
tell them
classes?
themselves.
Of course not.
Jacket during the hot months and then,
Um,
excuse me, yeah, I'm it's freezing in those schools, and then come winter time, I'm still wearing a coat besides.
The other deal is it's a nifty little trick to give you repairs for 15-year loan, but in 13 years you need it again.
Right.
I mean, you're 2 years shy of having made full cycle with it. Are they still in the running for this type of work going forward?
So this type of work going forward is again, a multi-million-dollar project, so it requires a long process where you would do an RFQ and choose who is gonna do the work and then make sure that you negotiate a price. So this is something that wouldn't be done overnight. This is just, again, moving forward, something that eventually we need to upgrade all our HVAC equipment across the district. And this is a way to do it in our current financial situation.
And this is district-wide for the most part.
District-wide, some buildings are worse than others, but district-wide, we need an upgrade.
And this could change if we utilize your facility.
Exactly, so we wouldn't want to do an upgrade till we're sure which facilities we're gonna be using.
Oh, God, it just keeps getting better and better.
Parking lots.
All right.
So we've known for a long time that by the tennis courts at HMK, that there are a lot of potholes there. So
Yeah, exactly.
it would cost $50,000 to, before in the past, we've just tried to patch it. This would, scrape it all the way down and do just the area, parallel to the tennis courts. It would cost $50,000 to do that.
How soon could that be done? Because I could go trip on it tomorrow and sue you for $50,000.
Well,
Does this address?
It's not
Let's
her
not
doing
get
it, it's not her doing it, it's all the people that are coming to tennis tournaments. And that's where you're gonna get it.
Right, and Colonel's right, the only way we're gonna ever eliminate that is if we ever close the high school, because they have free reign to drive all day, every day, 24/7, 365, and that's the problem. We don't lock the high school, and there's free reign, people are like, Colonel said, up and down, up and down, up and down, tennis people, but you go up at night, there's people all over the buildings.
Can you not put some barricades up between that area so that vehicles cannot go through, so they
We've-
can utilize other ways to get in and out of the school?
In the past, Trustee Ramos, we've had administration, hopefully the last custodian was to lock the doors, but
This is why I would, I would love to, I really love, it, especially those who haven't seen this kind of stuff. I have a risk management background. I can go to stores all over this place, and I can tell you how much I can sue you for all this stuff you have that's a liability out in the open. And that's what concerns me.
And you're right, it's been a huge liability, but the only way, again, this is gonna ever fix is if we continue, is to close everything, if we don't.
The difference there is that sue me,
Exactly.
sue the school, and the insurance gonna pay for it. But the insurance is not gonna pay to fix it.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's gotta come out of pocket. And years ago, we had the architects go over the whole problem here, that it's really more drainage than anything else. And I'm wondering if this, and I thought we addressed that at one point.
We did.
With one of the things that we supposedly fixed back there, but that's.
So we spend the $50K, it's gonna be like it's gonna turn like that 3 months from now, and then we are.
More than that, because of the drainage.
And that's why
I really hope that, you other board members who haven't seen the campuses up close can really take a look sometime soon, because it's concerning to someone like myself.
it's.
And it's been a concern for a long time, but again, it's a drainage issue, is what we have.
My question is, why don't you contact the civil engineers at the university and get them to write you up a proposal? It will cost you minimal amounts of money. And I know they're looking for projects to be a part of. I know this is what civil engineers do.
I'll tell you what, you can take the liberty, buddy.
What's that?
Take the liberty and run with the ball.
I'd be happy to.
I have a problem, that's part of the game. I wouldn't have a problem with it. Get with Dr. Pettis.
That's not my role.
Is that Dr. Robogala?
Oh, it's from KISD.
Whenever you have a very expensive project like this, it's imperative that you get multiple quotes. And again, so it's not a problem if we get a proposal also from the university. And anytime you go over $50,000, you want to go out for an RFP as well too. Now, this may not be $50,000. We may get something quotes less than $50,000. So I think we tried before and we got a couple of quotes in the $40,000 range about a year ago. We tried to estimate for inflation, just to be sure this time.
But I can tell you, being to other facilities, that these four aren't the only ones that have issues. Every campus has parking lot issues. And that's what kind of gets me thinking, how diligent were you all? Because I can assure you, I visited them and every campus has some type of parking lot issue.
These are priorities, right?
Well, I think everybody should be a priority.
They will not do.
Big
the work.
ticket.
They will not do the work, but they will look over and say, this is what you need to do to
And they could at
fix
least.
the problem.
Exactly. And they don't cause us-
And how do you train it properly, and how do you do that? We do have a specialty group of transportation engineers at the university that can help you out.
Okay, so this would be done even before we go out for bids or.
He's trying to get us to save money.
This is trying to help you write the bid.
So nobody pulls a wool over eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do seniors who park in the back there, the juniors and seniors, do they pay a fee to have their car registered to be able to park back there?
They did not this year. And going forward, we go, it was hard this year because we didn't have any kids.
So I could take my grandmother's car and fill it with cocaine and park it back there and come and go with that free, but there's like.
That's why it's so important that those gates stay locked. I just mentioned that, and we don't do diligence on that, but we're gonna start doing it forward. Again, those have happened even before you get a parking pass. Anybody can go free. It's been, and that's something we've been addressing for a long time.
So let's take a look at the next slide, replacing the door locks on classrooms. There are 3 of our campuses where the classroom doors have different locks that a master will not open from the outside. These are those 3 campuses. The other campuses, if you're an administrator and you have a master key, you're going to be able to get in the classroom. These classrooms, the problem is they need to be rekeyed so that they can all be opened from the master from the outside. And that's the approximate cost to do that.
Do we employ a locksmith on staff?
We don't have a locksmith on staff. We
Have one in Kingsville, I don't think anymore.
Mingo.
I know Mingo's a jack of all trades, but.
Right, he can make keys.
Right.
He can copy keys.
Okay.
But as far as a project like this is a project that we would need some outside work to do.
This is obviously a huge safety concern in case there's an active shooter, fire.
Correct.
What do you guys need to get it done yesterday?
What do we need to get it done yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, it's over $7,500, so it would need to be brought, if it's not on my board, it would need to be brought to you for approval.
Do you want that?
And
Well, the $1 million question is that, again, this is just if you're memorial, what about the others? So if you're gonna bring something, again, this is just me, if you're gonna bring me something, you're gonna bring for everybody. No offense, I'm just.
Okay, now, let me put this whole presentation into context. The reason we're sharing these with you is to lead into the task force study.
Okay.
To kind of let you all know, okay, so how do our facilities stand, or what are we looking at on some things? So we can dig deeper into the study. We can definitely bring you much more detailed information here, but we wanted to let you.
For this is a huge safety hazard.
So I guess call it what it is, this district is so antiquated, so we're trying to move to the next, correct?
Definitely.
All right. So here are some miscellaneous needs that we also have. Maintenance, we really need a few more maintenance vehicles, and that would be the cost for that. A bus lift, we could do more repairs on our own if we had a bus lift. There needs to be a female restroom for bus drivers. We have several female bus drivers, and right now it's a unisex restroom. So this would be a big project to create another restroom, because they would have to run water pipes from one part of the transportation building to the other. They would have to rip up the concrete, so that would be a big project to do that. Administration, you see this carpet right here on the floor, it's even worse in all the hallways because people are walking back and forth. Just to replace the carpet in the hallways, not the whole admin building, would be $20,000 or $27,000 if we wanted vinyl plank. Clayburg, there's a courtyard there where there's that 100-year-old pecan tree.
There you go.
And it always floods there whenever there is a big rain. Again, when I was at Clayburg, I saw that it took, over a week for it to drain out. And during that time, it starts to smell bad and, there's mosquitoes outside. So it's kind of a breeding ground. So that would be expensive to fix. We don't have a quote on that right now. And then Clayburg is also in a floodplain. So our normal insurance covers flood damage to our other buildings. But we have to get additional flood insurance for Clayburg because it's by that kind of little creek area there. It's a designated floodplain, so we need extra insurance for that. So those are some other needs. Technology, these are the top technology projects that Dr. Vasquez Cruz and his staff would like to address next.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yes, sir.
Didn't we get a grant for the high school intercom system?
We did. Diego, do you want to talk about what that grant covered so far?
Yes, the grant was enough to cover the hybrid unit that will connect the main building with the FEMA domes with the back of the vocational building, which is the all vocational building, ROTC, automotive, TV studio, and even the ag building. A recommendation was submitted over 6 years ago to integrate the whole intercom system with an IP-based solution. However, because of the cost, it was decided to install a lesser type solution that to our capacity is considered analog. So we move from an analog to a digital solution. Now we need to go ahead and give it one more step so we can bring everybody more.
Okay. Wait a minute.
Well,
I'm sorry, but the day they knocked the old high school down, they knocked the communications down to the auto shops, ROTC and MediaTek. I don't know about anybody else. So I don't know how that works in the analog and digital, but I know.
The domes came, yeah, the domes came after the.
They took out the both net tube.
Yeah. I understand. When the domes came up, sir, there was actually no conduit to connect the FEMA domes with a new HMK building. So we had to struggle in trying to bring the heavy cable to one of the closets at the FEMA domes. We even trenched a 20 feet deep hole in the ground to connect the track with the automotive section. Because the water gushes to there during the heavy rain, that's where the water runs to the canal. So we have to go very deep with our fiber. So slowly we're able to integrate more components to bring the paging system for all of HMK, not only for the front, but the back section. But again, the main component, the brain to everything, was not available because of cost. I was told pretty much back then, sir, that it was the Cadillac and we needed something.
because we just got that last year. That grant.
And it was invested on all that.
It was, I think it was a 50,000?
Yes.
50? So was anything placed back there? So there is communication.
There is, now the lines are, but we don't have the communication. We still miss components, the buttons and some of the speakers to make everything work.
Communication, I would define communication as, you have a shooter on campus, Mr. Malater can pick up the intercom and say, lockdown, and everybody on that campus
Right.
knows there's something on. You can't do that.
No.
You can do that with
Not doable.
maybe 7 phone calls, 8 phone calls.
So then the grant that was used, did we install some type of equipment? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, the server is rolling and it is integrating every single aspect of the main HMK, goes all the way to the domes. And I want to say, Mr. Mendez is here to the fine arts, but the fiber now needs to get the rest of the components to vocational building, automotive, media, and so on. So that's the last part.
About egg.
Including the app, including the app.
That was a big one.
I don't think they had it either, did they?
The fiber is there.
Well, they got it now.
We put the fiber, all we need to do is bring the rest of the model.
You gotta
That
have
will
to
be
count.
that amount that is reflected.
You gotta have to count now.
So the vocational building at HMK needs a roof and an intercom system.
Okay, all right.
And again, I want to reiterate that the solution for all of it, it was recommended before the construction for the domes, but it was declined. And because of the amount of money necessary to connect everything at that time, so.
Now it's time.
Now it's time to, yeah, now we are on the way.
Oh, but we can say the same thing about Gillette too, because it's still not up and running right. So
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
one camera, it's, okay, all right.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about, if you allow me one more thing, sir,
Absolutely.
Gillette can tap into HMK now because it's an IP base, so we are saving money. The cost for Gillette was gonna be an atrocity, it was gonna be up to $120,000. So we're bringing the cost down to what you see right now in there. We're gonna need some minor modifications, but the cost is being reduced to less than 50%.
And that's because you invested in the brain here that can.
At the HM, yes, to centralize everything.
All right, moving on to athletics. We've known that the track has needed work there for a long while. A turf program would be to have someone once a year do the aeration, to do the fertilization of the fields.
Which fields are you talking about?
I'm sorry, what?
Which fields are you talking about?
Let's see.
It's MOPAC practice, football field, baseball, softball. On those, Memorial as well,
That'd be a total of 5.
5 fields.
That's what I heard. Me too.
Football helmets, they're reconditioned every year, but they can only be reconditioned for 10 years. So right now we have 53 football helmets that can't be reconditioned anymore that Coach Davila took to it, but we need new helmets. And it's gonna cost $15,000 for that. That we're gonna need for next year.
How much by?
How many was that by?
15,000 would buy 53. Buys about 53. Yes.
Court resurfacing, these are for our hard court surfaces, our basketball, our gyms across the district and our tennis courts. If we did 2 per year for 4 years, it cost us $10,000 a year to do that.
Now, where's this at? Is this with FEMA domes or is this?
Yeah, we don't see that one here.
Domes and Gillette,
Domes and Gillette.
and our tennis courts.
How many years can we do that before we have to replace the floor?
No, you can do it multiple years. Basketball courts, you can do it a bunch of years. Tennis courts, you resurface them one time, they're good for
Do you
about,
have to like sand them first and then revarnish them or?
yes. And that's all they need right now. They don't need a complete new floor. They just need sanding every year and then re-wax.
Coach, the only thing that
No,
can,
not the safety part on the FEMA domes. They were shrunk as the domes got built, the budget went down, the width got smaller.
Right.
the one thing that in doing research of the turf program, I know that I've seen, and again, quote me if I'm wrong, that you have a lot of unfortunately clover.
No doubt.
It is, I was told by another athletic department that is a safety issue. Is that a true statement?
Yes. When it gets wet,
Clover, we have a lot of clover.
Oh,
It's a lot of clover. And
Right now in the wintertime, when it's cold and there's a lot of moisture in the air, pop a hamstring, ball skids off the clover and it's just a bad surface to play on.
And then I also heard that every 2 years or 3 years, and I don't know if we've ever done it, is that all the bleachers have to be inspected. Has that ever been done?
No.
Per UIL, am I correct? Say that?
I don't think by per UIL, it's just you do it as a safety
Okay, I know,
precaution.
because I know those bleachers have to be inspected. Okay,
That would be predominantly MOPAC.
correct.
Sir.
And, yeah, and that's what the practice field. Yep, but,
All right,
thanks.
let's move on to fine arts. It was,
What's that?
We gave up on the mower?
oh. uh, So the real grass mower allows you to get a closer cut, a finer cut. Do you want to
Yes.
elaborate on that?
So a reel mower is the reels are in the front. Baseball and softball fields are supposed to be 1 1/16, so it gets down to that. The blades are sharper.
when you cut the grass, the blades go out in front, so it helps the grass grow. An old maintenance guy told me, if you don't mow, it won't grow, so.
Okay, but this would be strictly for athletic field use, correct?
Yes, that's it.
So what do you think the life of that should be?
The mower?
Yeah.
At least 15 years.
Okay.
With proper maintenance. There's $1 million question.
Does it mow, clovers?
You can't have
If
clovers.
we get on the turf program, Doc, there will not be any clover.
Yeah, you can't. I'm on positive clovers.
Because we'll have, the turf program includes all the herbicides, the fertilizer,
Scott, get him over here.
all of that.
Okay.
Moving on to fine arts, band instruments are expensive. It was an eye opener to me that if you want to buy a new tuba, it's $10,000 for a middle of the road tuba.
Where's Get's music in this?
So, if you want to repair a band instrument, it could be a couple $1,000s just for a band instrument. We have an aging, I don't know what you want to call it. It's not a fleet, an aging contingent of instruments that eventually needs to be replaced. This is something that'll have to be replaced over time. We don't have the money to replace all of it right now. Theater lighting system and equipment. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Basically, we don't have any. So, we've gotten, from other people, when other people discarded stuff, we've gone ahead and we replace some of the things, but in actual, a lot of the things, because the new, when everything started getting built, it was such a delay for such a long time due to rain, weather, these other kind of things. There continue to be cutbacks on everything. So a lot of the things that were gonna be purchased at that time, this is already a long time ago. Those were at the time, there was supposed to be a new auditorium in this also, which is, probably not gonna happen anytime, here in this, most of us will probably be retiring before we ever get an auditorium back. So along with that, it's just cutback after cutback. Theater arts doesn't have, they were supposed to get an area that was gonna have a stage so they could do the productions and all that kind of stuff. Right now, they're relegated to using what's in the cafeteria. But there is no lighting system, there is nothing that they can use to practice with, everything is all, patch cut, somebody, donated, we kept, found those bulbs, different things like that, so there's quite a bit of stuff that not just theater arts, I mean, you're talking all the campuses that have, instruments and different things that, some of those things are severely, out of shape. Going back a couple of years, I mean, we do, even right now, currently the staff, we do what you could consider thousands of dollars worth of repairs on our own. We've learned to solder, we've learned to weld, we've done this, we've taken things to, we would take them over to Mr. Tomlin, Mr. Becerra, and they would, patch things up for us and all those things. But it just gets to a point where eventually you just can't keep, it's like anything else. You can't put a new engine in a 1969 Dodge and expect the body to keep up with that engine. It just doesn't work that way. And we do the best that we can to, keep all these things going. And obviously, a lot of those things are, there's the cream of the crop, there's the middle of the road, and then the stuff we get. And so a lot of the times, you get what you pay for. That's just the nature of the beast. And our kids, obviously, they do, very well, because some of these things, most schools, as I talk to other, band directors, fine arts directors, they do almost an inventory overhaul every 10 to 15 years. And I can tell you that some of the instruments that we have right now, they were around when I was in high school, and I graduated in 1988. Like some of our Tiffany systems and stuff, but we go in and, like I said, give me your gum, give me your tape, give me this, weld it, put a screw in it, and we take out, more and more years of life. But, in a given system, it'd be good at some point to continue, to get things, especially now. We've been doing a lot of repairs with our instruments, and actually not even repairs, we've been doing overhauls. There's a difference. A repair is fixing what is wrong with it right now. An overhaul is making it like new. So we've been doing a lot of the overhaul stuff right now, basically because now with this COVID stuff, a lot of these kids, some of these bari saxophones and tubas, these $15,000 to $20,000 instruments have been shared by kids, and they have their own mouthpiece, this and that, and then we have, Santa spray stuff. But now with COVID, going forward for at least a good while into the future, the sharing of these instruments is probably not gonna be a good idea or something that really parents are probably gonna want anyway, in that regard. So we've been trying to be as frugal as we can, overhauling as much as we can. And the good thing about an overhaul, it may look expensive on paper as a repair, but when you compare it to the cost of a new instrument, obviously, I would rather repair and overhaul 5 of our tubas than to buy one.
Right, I know when one of those refurbishing or overhauls came to me and it was $1,500 for a tuba, and then I questioned it, can we just get a new one for that price? No, it was $10,000 to get a new one, so it is saving us money. And going back to the theater, we've had an issue with theater not having a home since we got rid of the auditorium, and right now, that's part of the reason why there's a need for portable equipment, so that we can move
Yeah, or
it
they
around.
rent it. A lot of the stuff they used in the past has been rented and stuff like that, so it's never something that you see a return from the investment. It's just a constant outsourcing.
So instruments, is there an aftermarket for those things?
There can be, and a lot of the times we'll go with, like, South Texas Music Mart is real good about giving us credit for certain things, like if it's an instrument, that's really outdated.
I'm thinking more along the lines of, is there like a used instrument lot where you can go pick up a 2008 saxophone?
We utilize the music stores, they do that, they outsource to their people, there's people that do that for a living. They get these instruments, they put all the stuff together, then they go and outsource them and sell them. And don't get it, we take advantage of that as much as we can also. Absolutely.
What's the price reduction on something like that over new?
To be honest, it's really not that much. If you look at one of the tubas that, there's one of the brands in particular comes to mind, it's St. Petersburg, which is a little bit lower than the middle of the road. It's about a $6,500 tuba. I went and looked as for some of the quotes, and to be honest, it's you end up paying about 60-75% of the cost of a new one anyway. Because the case alone is over $1,000 just for that. So it's pretty outrageous. The instruments like that are pretty much the price of a mid-sized car.
So moving on to choir, the uniforms are very old, both the men's and women's uniforms are very old. And they are in need of some risers and keyboards as well too.
Mr. Mendez, I have a question. Are we providing these, when you say instruments, what are these the instruments that the band members that we purchase for them, or?
The school district owns them and we provide them to the students.
So my son was in a band and he had his trumpet, but we never got one from the school. We purchased our own.
This is the bigger instruments. The kids right now, other districts provide everything. They would have included your kid with a trumpet.
Wow.
But yeah, we still, kids that join right now, we don't provide flute. Now, don't get me wrong, we have a few instruments, the kids still purchase, alto saxophones. We're talking about the baritone, the bass clarinet, bari saxophones, your tens of thousands of it, you don't expect it, but it'd be nice.
Little drums that we see all.
Right,
It's cheaper to rent these instruments from the South Texas Instrument Company than.
The problem with renting is that it's still almost as expensive as if you were to pay for the darn instrument, and then you end up returning it. Other schools that can afford it, they do have like lease plans, and they keep, but we don't have those kind of funds to, we wish we could. But yeah, when you rent an instrument, you're renting to rent, you're not renting to own.
Yeah, I've rented instruments.
So you end up giving it back, and then you're back at square one and nothing for your investment.
Mr. Mendez, also, excuse me, I'm sorry. Your boosters, because I was gonna go back to coach also with the boosters, when we were there, when my daughter was there playing, we were able to get one of the, what do you call them, the mule that you all have, we purchased that.
Right.
We also purchased the tunnel, okay? And we also purchased jerseys, a set of jerseys, I think either home jerseys or. Sure. How strong is the boosters, this
I mean, in the last 2, 3 years, I'm just asking because the boosters, we generate a lot of money. Okay, we generate a lot, to buy those things, it wasn't cheap, so that's why I'm asking just to assist a little bit with the cost. That's something I think that maybe we can.
The band boosters does not generate as much obviously as athletics. Now, they do as much as they can.
Do you provide any public performances?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Just.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're out everywhere.
This, not just the games.
No, I mean, we'll play it, you know.
Something you can sell tickets to.
Well, no, most of the stuff when we go perform for people, whatever, it's a community service more than anything else.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, we really, it's not a pay-for-play kind of thing. And then we don't want to infringe on that whole professionalism, you know, pay professional, you know, and then kids can't compete, that kind of thing, whatever. So we've never really taken money from any of the performances that we do for
You do like a
anything.
mini symphony with your band or something and charge $5 a pop? That's.
You
cutting
could, but
You're
again,
cutting
it's-
into TAMUK, is that your point?
what's that?
You're cutting into the bottom line of TAMUK's performances.
Well, and again, it's, you're not gonna generate a ton of money by doing some of those things, or whatever. And our booster club, they
It
do.
offsets the cost of
Yeah.
those things.
Cause you have a real strong, don't get me wrong, you got parents, I was one of them, and I wasn't as active as I was when Sarah was playing ball,
Right.
but, you got a real good, and we're here to support you, Mr. Hernandez. I'm not saying that, oh, we're not gonna get, it's just that I didn't think that was that expensive to.
Right, no, and the boosters too, they provide as much as they can,
Yeah.
you know, and every year's different. Sometimes the parents have more connections than others and are able to make and generate more, you know, money for us and stuff, but they've always been real helpful, you know, even going back to when your daughter
Yes.
Sarah was in,
That's
you know,
right.
provide meals and
Yes, they do.
these kinds of things or whatever, help pay for some of the kids that maybe can't get their instruments repaired or we can't do it. I mean, you know, it just, they help out absolutely as much as they
I
can.
got you. Thank you for what you do, Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And coach, thank you, coach, for what you're doing.
Okay, so let's look at the last slide here, the agricultural facility. It is an old facility and there are many repairs that are needed. I'm not gonna go into all those individually, but this is a cost to the district. Rent is charged for the individual pens. Right now, we only have about 30 of the pens being rented at $150 a pot, so you're looking at maybe $4,500 that we're getting in rental revenue. It's gonna cost way more than that to fix the issues that we have there, so that's something that we're gonna have to find the money for.
This last year, we cracked down on rents.
Mhm.
Did you see people flee?
I don't have an answer to that.
I know we're not even using, a little bit more than half of our spots are.
What I can tell you, Mr. Kufal, is that probably half of that iPhone is being utilized for every project. Almost all your pigs are are full. As far as steer pens, you probably have 3 that I know of, and the rest are all goats. But it's about halfway to capacity.
We had a lot of things canceled this year, so a lot of people didn't participate as they did last year in livestock events.
I heard the numbers were up this year.
I heard they were down.
We still had a 10-hour sale.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Well, it's the same number made the sale.
Do what?
The same number made the sale.
The what?
Same number make the sale.
Actually, no.
75 chickens go every year.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
The same money though. But
Every steer goes, I mean.
I would look at how many people were planning to go traveling as far as state shows, because that's, once again, that would affect the number of pens that they rented. A big part of this. And I would look into that. I would ask that we had that information before we jump forward to move through.
But a lot of these ag repairs, and again, I know the past could have been done by FFA, could have been done by the welding class. And maybe that's something moving forward, that this could be projects. I mean, that could be a huge part.
We talked about the calendar, we
Lot
talked about
cheaper.
the calendar.
And the same thing for a lot of our stuff, you know, I mean,
It may even be another.
another to move idea.
That I don't know about their ag department as much as I know about the city.
But in looking at the ag farm, just something to keep in mind is that that ag farm is almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
And the people that actually built it, Franklin Welby, were there when I went out there to look at the installation of the pole that was being put up for the security camera. And, they remember putting it up, 40 years ago, and they said it's gonna cost you more money to repair it, what we have up, than they were just to build some additional pins, kind of what you got now, on the other side of the ag farm. Because the pipe is, for the most part, there's a lot of rot in it, and you won't be able to repair that rotted pipe, especially if it's deteriorated.
But it goes back to one thing, Dr. Solano, I think it's called accountability. And unfortunately, we let it deteriorate. But again, not here nor there anymore. We'll take 1 foot forward, 1 foot forward, that's it.
So the purpose of this whole presentation was to inform you of the needs that we have as a district. There's a lot of needs we have, and right now, we don't have the money to take care of these needs. So that's our lead into the TASBO study. We're gonna look at, we've done a lot of, we've talked about our deficit was $4.5 million, and we've been able to minimize it to 2.1 million. We're gonna talk now about how we got in this situation. Why do we have a budget deficit? What are the factors leading to that the TASBO study is telling us, and also what we can do about it. And Mr. President, is it possible to request a 5 minute?
That's what I was gonna actually do.
recess?
We're gonna give a 5-minute recess.
And then we'll get TASBO set up and we'll be ready to go.
It's 6:36, 6:41, 6:42. You be there.
Yeah, she's.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You get it fixed.
Pettis and Dr. Pitts.
So our Caswell consultant is on the line. I'll be presenting, but he'll be available in case there's any questions that I can't answer, or if you have any questions on the methodology of the presentation. So I'm going to give you an overview first. I ask that you listen to the overview in PowerPoint first, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have on the individual report, pages of the report. So we're going to start off with the factors that are contributing to our deficit. And then we're going to finish off with what we can do to address those factors. If you look at the first slide.
Dr. Pitts, let me stop you real quick.
Yes.
Keep in mind, again, this is just a recommendation. So make sure that everybody through TASBO. I mean, again, I know there's some tough times coming, but again, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is a it was an independent thing done by TASBO. It's just a recommendation. We're looking at everything going forward. Dr. Bennett and her staff did a great job being very transparent, showing her entire staff, faculty. It's been on our website, so it's been very, people have had time to look at this. But again, just like Dr. Pitts says, if you have any questions, please wait till the end, because now, as I call it, now we're into the meat and potatoes of everything now. So just hold on to your questions, please. Thank you, Dr. Pitts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Busman-Spruce, is there a way to get that a little bit bigger up there or not?
That's right.
So factor number one, the appraisal district appraises our property values every year. The Texas Comptroller appraises our property values every year. Unfortunately, there is a big difference between the property valuations. We are paid based on what the comptroller appraises our property values at. The problem is that, again, there's such a big disparity. They're saying that we should be collecting more in property taxes than we are. And because of that, you see how much we lost in 2019. This was after we had the property value protest and recovered $400,000. So even after that, we lost $1.1 million in M&O revenue and $540,000 in INS revenue, $1.66 million from our 2019 property values. So the issue here is, again, lost revenue because of the discrepancy between the state and the county. We do have, I believe, is it 2 board members that were on the appraisal district?
You are correct.
Yes. And our, so that is one avenue to try to levy some leverage to fix this problem on that end. What are you thinking,
All right.
Mr. Kufal?
This all came about from House Bill 43.
You're right.
When they changed this. And to say that the comptroller values our property is technically correct, but they're using a matrix across the state. They have no earthly idea what Kingsville tax. Who here feels like their property is undervalued and wants to pay more tax? And who here believes that it is in our best interest to tell our tax appraisal district to raise all our tax rates? I mean, there's a fallacy, and it's a game, it's the game we have. The better alternative is that every single one of us need to be hammering on James Lozano.
Who's the
and
vice
Senator-
chair of the
Exactly.
budget of the education?
Kingsville is landlocked. Kingsville is not developing subdivisions like the other areas of the state. Kingsville is not attracting new commercial buildings that are throwing down millions of dollars. And so to compare us to Grapevine or some of these others and say, well, their tax rate base per, you can't do that. You got to take into consideration exactly who we are and what we are and the specifics about Kingsville. So I can't argue the premise that you have because it's true. But what really happened is the state screwed us over in House Bill 3, big time.
Now, are we the only, when I say only, in this area, are we the only district that has this problem? I mean, does Rivera have this problem?
Rivera doesn't have this problem because Ricardo doesn't have this problem.
Because they're
because-
agricultural.
No, because they are still building houses like crazy in the country. And so their tax base is growing. Kingsville's tax base is not growing.
So who's like us around here that's in a similar situation like that?
Well, I guarantee you the King Ranch hasn't had their valuations go up.
I mean, like real school districts.
There's probably one about 30 miles up the road, but I'm not gonna use it.
Looking at
Is there a problem with what I just said?
It's funny. It was funny. I mean, I agree. It probably Falfurrias, the smaller ones, the Benavides, the Fremont, Alice even, you know, Rosstown.
It would seem to
probably
me
so.
that we can find other school districts that are in J.M. Lozano's district.
Well, they're all booming, sir.
Start applying pressure, but you know, then you get up the road, you get Corpus that continues to expand like crazy. You've got the Portland district that is just going crazy with the Exxon plant coming here. Even little places like Sinton, because of what's going on in San Patricio County, are going absolutely crazy. But you've got to take the individuality of Kingsville and say, we don't have the ability to expand our tax base. So the only way to increase that valuation is to add another $100,000 on top of everybody that is existing here. And so we're in a real catch-22 situation.
And nobody wants to pay more taxes. The other issue that goes along with our valuations is also the tax rate for our INS side. As long as I've been here, we've had to either do a transfer from our M&O side to our INS side to pay for our bonds. We have bond debt that when we collect tax revenue every year, it is not enough to cover our bond debt. So
By design. Go back to 2010 or 11, maybe 12, somewhere in there. There was a tax, a TRE. I don't know what the R stands for. But there was a plan brought about by the state to trade tax dollars from the INS to the M&O, and districts all across all across Texas did this. It put dollars in our pockets right then, and we knew that there was going to be about a $900,000 transfer, and all the research showed that it was still going to be worth it to us, and the state encouraged us to do this. Again, comes along House Bill 3, and they messed us over again with the whole dang thing, and basically said, well, you just kind of shot yourself in the foot. So it's not that we're not collecting enough money. We were. Our tax rate was set exactly what it was supposed to be. But when they imposed these caps on us, the only way we could generate any more money was to trade that over so that we would not be coming up against the cap on not the M&O side, but the INS side. And there are articles after articles after articles written about this period of time where the legislature turned right around and basically shot the finger at all the districts that they encouraged to do this to.
So this is reason number one. For one reason or another, we're not collecting the tax revenue that we need to pay our INS or to be fully funded, as TEA says, we should be collecting more revenue to be fully funded. They're not going to give us that extra revenue. If you look at the next slide, here's reason number two. The biggest portion of our funding comes from the state. It's called a foundation school program payment. And we are paid based on our ADA. Our refined ADA. So that is based on not how many kids we have enrolled, but it's based on who's coming to school every day, and certain class demographics of students are given an added weight, such as special education or CTE. So if you look at our enrollment over since 2014, 15, you notice how it's been going down. And more precipitously over the last 3 years, it's been going down quite a bit. So you see that we used to be paid on 3,109 students, and now we are paid on 2,579, which translates to millions of dollars. So whenever you have less students, they're going to give you less money. So what we need to do is reduce expenses to be in line with the number of students that we have, and we'll talk about how to do that a little bit later on.
The ADA money is about what, 38 a day?
$38 a day.
Is that what it equates to? Is that all right?
The basic allotment is a little over $6,000 for a whole year.
Oh, okay.
So, if you take a look at our attendance, so just because our enrollment, if our enrollment were to increase, we need to have our attendance rate be higher to get those monies, because they don't pay us unless the kids come to school. So if you look at our cohort that Casbo compared us to, our attendance rates have been 2 to 3% lower than the other cohorts that have similar characteristics, starting all the way in the 2014-15 school year. Our attendance has been lower. So that's another reason why our revenue has been decreasing, because when they don't come to school, as Mr. Garza said, you don't get paid for that day. Every day is lost revenue when students don't come to school. Transfers. A big reason why our enrollment has gone down is students have transferred to other surrounding districts. You notice the biggest losses are to Santa Gertrudis, to Jubilee, and also to Bishop. And if we were able to recoup even a quarter of those, we would get substantially more revenue. So here is a comparison of salaries and benefits for us and that cohort of similar demographic groups. If you look at the first row, it shows average wages as a percentage of budget. So our peer districts pay 63.3% of their budget toward their salaries. We pay less than that, 58.8%. But if you look at some of the other categories, most notably health insurance, we pay almost more than double a percentage of our total revenues to health insurance that other districts do. So if you look at overall the bottom, sorry, my glasses are fogging up. If you look at the bottom there, we pay more overall in salaries and benefits together than our peer groups do. 78.1% versus 76.6%. And again, part of that is the benefits, but the biggest part of it is the overtime and the substitutes, but the biggest reason of that is health insurance. And there's no right or wrong reason why we pay more in health insurance. Over time, over the history, over years, different districts decide we're going to put more money toward health insurance instead of toward salaries. And somehow over accumulation over time, we have contributed a lot more to health insurance and not as much to salaries as our peer group. But again, you see overall with the benefits together, we have contributed more than our peer districts. So those are some of the reasons why we have gotten into a budget deficit. Not collecting as much revenue because of property values, losing ADA revenue, those are declining enrollment to surrounding districts. So the question is, what can you do about it? And whenever you talk about cutting, we cut as much as we could last year for this budget. I went to every department and each department grudgingly worked with me to cut supplies and materials and things like that. But if you really want to make a balanced budget, the pathway starts with two things. Reducing staff to meet your level, to match your level of students, your enrollment. And number two, to making sure you have the right facilities and you don't have too many facilities for the number of students that you have. Those are the biggest two things, because you're talking approximately 74% of your whole budget goes to salaries and benefits. And then you're talking another 7 or 8% goes to your facilities. That is most of your budget right there. It's not going to make much of a difference cutting in other areas. So how can you do that? Dr. Pettis has talked very much about we are not going to cut staff. We're going to reduce the number of staff we have through attrition. And as you see here, that's very possible to do with our district, because our district has a lot of turnover every year. So it's very, if you look at the number of teachers, now you notice 2020 was kind of an anomaly. People didn't want to move as much at the end of 2020 for understandable reasons because of the pandemic. But even after in 2020, you see that there still were quite a few teachers that left. And so every year there's going to be turnover. And if we wanted to reduce staff to match the level of students, because right now we have very low class sizes. If we wanted to make sure that we set staffing ratios so that there were a certain number of students per teacher, a certain number of students per paraprofessional, per counselor, per custodian, all the way down the line, that's the way to a balanced budget. You have to, at the beginning of the year, set your staffing to match the number of students that you have. If you
Or we wait till the end.
Are you burning?
Anyway.
He's almost done.
So the first question is, do we have a path forward to reduce staff to match enrollment? And the answer is yes, through attrition. Then the next question is there, can we reduce our facilities to match the number of students that we have? So you look here at the current enrollment in our facilities, and you look at the capacity. In some cases, in most cases, we have almost double the capacity at the schools for the students that are there. So this was calculated based on a ratio of 22-1 for elementary classrooms and 25-1 for secondary classrooms. So this was 22-1 for elementary classrooms and 25-1 for secondary classrooms. So the TASBO study put together a couple of scenarios of how we could combine facilities. One of them they talked about was to have a 6th through 8th grade middle school and to move 5th grade to the elementary schools. Again, you see that we did have space to do this in the different facilities. And if we were going to do something like this, the school that has a greater capacity, if you look at the previous slide, would be, and it also is the one that doesn't need major repairs and roofs. Again, really is a newer facility all around. And a bigger facility. It's our second biggest facility after HMK. So if we were to move the students at Memorial and keep 6th grade at Gillette and move 5th grade to the elementary schools, this would be the fiscal impact, $4.1 million if we include in there the roof repairs. Granted, the roof repairs are a one-time shot, but after that, all those other repairs would be annual savings every year on staff, on utilities and maintenance. You would have quite a bit of money that you would be saving every year, which again, right now, we still have a $2.1 million deficit for this year. You see how that could really make a dent. If you look at the other option that TASBO recommended, and the other option came about because there's 2 of our elementary schools right now that have very few students. let's back up a couple of slides. If you look at Clayburgh right now, current enrollment 220, and again, it may not be exactly now, this was taken snapshot from by our Casbo consultant, and 239 at Harold. It is unsustainable to maintain a school with those number of students. It's one of the big reasons we're leading to our deficit right now. So if we were to take one of those campuses, one of those smaller campuses, and move those students around to the other elementary schools and operated with 3 elementary schools, this would be the fiscal impact moving forward based on salaries and how much we would save on utilities and maintenance. So moving forward, these are the biggest recommendations to lead to a balanced budget. The first thing is staffing. We need to set staffing ratios. TASBO recommends a staffing ratio of 14.5 teachers per student. That is not class size. That is including all the PE teachers, the fine arts teachers. So we're not talking, again, classroom, number of students in a classroom at one time. We're talking also the inclusion teachers. Every single teacher on the campus, if you divide the number of students by the number of certified teachers on campus, it needs to be over 14.5 if you're going to have a balanced budget. And then you set all the other staffing ratios from there. You saw in the TASRO report, we're over in almost every area. We're over in paraprofessionals, custodians, counselors. We have a greater ratio than the number of students compared to our peer district. So it all starts with setting staffing ratios for the next year. And that does not mean letting people go. That means reducing through attrition. And if you, so that's the second bullet. If you look at the third bullet, this almost goes hand in hand with reducing your staffing, because when you have one less facility, you are not going to need a whole nother department. You're not going to need a custodial department for that school. You're not going to need a food service department for that school. So it goes hand in hand with reducing your staffing. Those are the biggest ways. Again, we talked about altogether 83% of our budget are always staffing the facilities. So if we want to get a balanced budget, it's going to start with setting our staffing in our facilities to match the number of students currently enrolled. So at this time, I will take any questions.
Let me just correct one thing on, I believe on the aides is the only thing we weren't overstaffed.
What type of aid?
On page 20, where it says comparison of pupil to educational aid ratios. It looked like that was the only one we weren't.
No,
We're
we are
reading that wrong.
okay. Let me turn to that. I'm sorry. Page
Counselors, yes.
So.
Page 42 in the board book, but page 20 in
Okay.
the.
So if you look at table number 14, it shows that right now our peer districts have 90.5 students per aide, and we only have 56 students per aide. So we are not, I mean, they have almost twice as many students per aide as we do.
Did we have a special education audit that was going on or is happening, or? I remember that was brought up, saying, yeah, we got a special education audit going on now.
That was 3 years ago.
Well, a couple months ago.
We,
An audit or our.
We had strategic support plans and we had maybe a desk audit what they had last year possibly. Or there was something that they had, somebody came in, this was, I think 2 years ago or last year, that they did have something that, so they spoke with someone at King High School that they were interviewing. That's what I'm aware of.
TEA did have an on-site review, I think.
Last year, year before, last year.
Now I have to go back for all the meetings. I do, by the way, thank you for being transparent about this, because this probably is something that before would have been done under the cover of darkness in the night. And I really appreciate you putting it online, giving it to the teachers, allowing everybody to read every single page of this.
Thank you. Appreciate
And
it.
I swear to God, there's an audit or some kind of report out there that somebody was talking about a couple of months ago.
But what, an audit as far as you say special ed?
Special ed.
The only audit that I'm aware of was 2 years ago when we kind of were looking at everything. Now, you are correct, there was a desk audit that was done per TA, but as far as an audit, if they can, that I'm not aware of. Go ahead.
No.
Now, I have concerns with this because everything that we spoke to here is about attrition. We need to speak to the staff quickly because we have staff that's being told to look for a new job because they're going to be replaced because they were the most recent hire.
And I'd like to know who gave them false information like that.
And that's
what I would like to know.
because I remember you saying that it was only by attrition.
Right.
And so I think that we need to get ahead of this issue and make sure that they understand that this is by attrition, not.
Yeah. That's why I sent another email kind of saying what attrition is. Some people may say that because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings if they're leaving, but there's no way we have said that we're going to lay off. In fact, I have met with every campus except 3 elementaries now that I'm supposed to go back, but the winter storm kept me from doing it. And in every meeting I've had, I've said, we are not laying off teachers. Do not use the word risk because I have not used that word. Attrition is what we're going to go by. Unless, of course, there's a reason we need to non-renew.
And that's, I think that we need to be very, very careful and just make sure that we state that.
And I have been, and we have been.
And I don't get all those communications, but I'm just letting you know that I have heard that it's been brought to my attention by constituents that some of the people, some of the staff and administration that we have is leaving strictly because they were told to go look for another job.
I could tell if that was the issue, they'd probably stand up, line up to HR and file a grievance. That would happen.
Well, I think what we need to do is maybe send out that continued employment survey first, then we'll get a truer picture, like.
About who wants to leave?
Yeah, are you planning on coming back? That survey, because I think we got ours today, are you gonna come back? What are your plans for next year?
And we hadn't done that yet because we don't want to give the impression we want to lose people. We don't.
Just to start,
And that's fine. I just wanted to bring that up, that we need to address this issue. However we choose to address it, as far as I'm concerned, is the right way.
No, that's 2 whole campuses. What are we gonna do with 2 whole campuses of staff, really? Somebody's gotta go.
Well,
Not enough turnover.
you wouldn't be losing 2 full campuses of staff because those students would be moving from one campus to another. Like you look at,
So you're gonna put 2 nurses at the middle school or the intermediate school.
right, I'm mainly talking teachers and some of the aides, because when you have increased students at one school, you're gonna have increased other staff. But you're right, there are some where we won't be able to reduce through attrition and we won't need them and we will have to do it over, another year. Or find a different spot or capacity for where they can most be used to best benefit the
So
district.
when we use this vocabulary, attrition, it's for just teachers.
Everybody.
No, it's
Yeah.
for everyone.
Across the board.
It's for everyone.
Everybody.
One thing that I'd like to point out that if you look at this slide, in particular, if you move from 2 grades at intermediate school and 2 grades at middle school to 3 grades at middle school, and then moving 5th grade to elementary schools, this helps significantly with accountability. And here's the reason why, because right now we have 2 tested grade levels at elementary, 3rd and 4th grade, 2 at intermediate, 5th and 6th, 2 at middle school, 7th and 8th. What this would do is move, it would have 3 at middle school, and then it would have 3 at elementary school, 3, 4, and 5. And that's so important to a small district because we are a lot of times dependent on the cohort because we're such a small district. If we have 1 bad grade level and we only have 2 tested grades at a school, it's very hard to recover. If you have 3 at each school, not only do we have less schools with accountability, but you have 3 grades where if you have one grade level, that's a challenging cohort, that it's not going to affect your accountability as much.
Would we be redrawing lines again? You have to, right?
Well, looking at only if we closed an elementary. And we consolidated one elementary. That's the only reason we would have to redraw lines for that elementary. But moving Memorial to Gillette, there's no reason to draw lines.
Right, no,
Every kid
elementary.
goes, The only reason we would have to redraw lines would be if we close one elementary and consolidate.
What's the total, just off the top of your head, total number of, let's say, teachers?
200.
200. Especially your slide, your.
Okay.
Want to show it right there. So 200 teachers. The biggest year was 2017. We had a turnover of, was that teachers of 41?
Yes.
That's 20%.
Correct.
Of that 20% turnover, how many was voluntary and how many was non-voluntary?
Well,
And
almost.
here's what I'm going at. You know, the old, car lot philosophy that you have 10 car salesmen, number 10 goes. You go hire somebody else. Because whoever you hire has got to be better than number 10. And that's how you improve the quality of your sales force.
Almost all of this was voluntary. There were very few non-renewals, if that's what you're asking.
And that's my question. And the thing is and that's been traditional.
Correct.
You just don't see many non-renewals. So we must be a very, very good school district because not only are our students above average, but our teachers are above average too. And I think the reality is that in times like this, I think it is a time where you can say, you know what, bottom 10, maybe you aren't attrited. Maybe you are, well, you're attrited, but just in a different sense of the word. I don't think that's unrealistic.
Well, there's a lot that goes into that. How
hopefully our principals have been doing that all year in their assessments. Because we can't find ourselves in the academic situation we are and then naively say, but it's not the kid's fault, it's not the teacher's fault. Right.
We're not making that recommendation at this time. We believe that we can reduce staffing levels through attrition.
Wonderful, do that.
Then 2 separate issues.
But 2 separate.
And
The
without
point is,
getting
it
into
gets you to the number.
specifics.
It gets you to the number faster. And I just see that year after year. We don't see non-renewals.
And
You're right. That's
yeah,
very.
without getting into specifics, I can tell you we've already started that process and movement has already started occurring.
Next one is, are we on a hiring freeze right now?
I don't want to call it a hiring freeze because if we lose 6 math teachers and we need math teachers and we're going to hire 6 math teachers.
There should never be a freeze for math teachers.
I'm not going to say we're having a hiring freeze.
You
No.
hire them if you don't need them, because you're going to need them. But, and the other one I'm curious about is certification shortages. Do we have any areas where we have, specific certifications that are short? Because this would be the time to get it out and tell folks, look, this would be a good time for you to get certified at XYZ because you teach this subject and we're not going to be offering that next year.
And that's been part of my conversations that I've had in the high school, which is again, going to their master schedule and was seeing that it needed a lot of work. And the classes are being offered that are not needed. We're telling them, go get certified in something that's needed because it's like supply and demand. If they, like health, if you only have a certification in health, you're not needed.
One that kind of jumped in my mind.
Because it's not required anymore. So we're having Mr. Singh and Dr. Farah help them go get prepped. So we really need bilingual. Bilingual is such a shortage.
Yeah, that answers the mail in so many ways for both the teacher and us. Other one is, I know we're talking about the 14-to-5 ratio, it doesn't matter what you teach, but I think to some extent it does because program viability. If we have X number of teachers or teacher, and at the end of the day, only 15 or 20 kids pass through their class, is that something that's affordable to us?
You see, and that's where people are getting confused. That's why I didn't like that wording. It's not class size ratio.
I
It's
understand it's
everybody
everybody
that's,
invited in.
everybody that's in the building. If you have a certain amount of students,
But
you're
if there's two
counting.
of us teaching in this program, we only got 50 kids in the program, and that's our day's production. Is there a reason? I mean, is that, we gotta ask ourselves, is 25-1 for the whole day, not per class, because there's some teachers that have 25 kids in a class section.
Right.
And they do that 6 times a day.
Right.
7 times a day.
But then there are other classrooms where there are much smaller ratios
Yes.
because of the needs of the students. So overall, though, if you're
No,
gonna fiscally.
or the type of program that it is. I mean, I
Right.
don't know if you want 25 kids around welding coaches. I don't think that's probably a good idea. You want
Right.
that class to be on the smaller side.
Right.
But I can think of a few examples that immediately just pop into mind, saying, whoa, that's, those are pretty expensive teachers.
Mhm.
Considering the number of kids they see on a given day.
But we're not squashing the high school, we're squashing a possible elementary school.
Yes and no.
Yeah, high school's
We don't know yet.
We don't know
Pretty
yet.
much.
Yeah.
I've got some concerns and if we go forward with this year and talking about this, these are gonna probably forever be my concerns. I just have a statement and I looked over the grades for elementary school and the intermediate school, and I've heard from this board, oh, elementary school grades are crap, oh, they're doing so bad, but I looked through it and I don't think they're doing that bad as it was played out to me. But I did see the grades drop significantly. It's going from 4th to 5th grade. Once they hit 5th grade, it just pummels. And I think that adding 5th grade back into elementary school would help that.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that as a parent or a community member should know that if we retain them in elementary school, I don't know if it has to do with behavior or environment, they'll do better. I'd be afraid that we would close 2 campuses and then KIC looks at all the money in their pocket and they're like, oh, look, it's burning a hole. Let me go spend it. That's one of my fears.
But the pocket is already burned.
We're 2 million in the deficit.
I know, but I don't wanna, right, we're out of the deficit, but I don't wanna have a game where we're like, have money sitting around and they're like, oh, we should just spend it on something. I hope that we would be good stewards of any extra money that we would come up with.
We still have lots of campuses that we need to make sure that the roofs don't leak.
Yeah.
Parking lots.
I just-
Our
I
own
just don't wanna
question is, we
foresee
haven't been very good stewards in the
waste-
past, because
wasteful
that's why we're
spending.
having this discussion now. But you would have potentially 2 campuses you could close and consolidate,
That's great. but I
frankly,
don't want-
that discussion should have been done about 4 years ago,
Yeah,
5 years ago.
I know. Another concern, if we close down an elementary school, this has been a huge pet peeve for me, because I almost ran over a kid, a parent in a parking lot. I've been outside, almost nearly watching kids almost get run over for a whole year. And it's been on the news and in the newspaper about people walking across of Harvey and dying in the process. So when we get an up in traffic at these campuses, that's gonna be a huge concern of me. Because if you add that 100 or 200 kids to an elementary school, the traffic's going to be worse than it was before. That's a huge issue for me.
But if I may,
Go ahead, I know,
a big part of that, there's nothing we can do about it. We've got to have city, we've got to have textile, we've got to have.
I almost ran over a kid on the campus, not in the street, on the campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what can the school district do?
Educate the
To
parents.
prevent you from running over?
Educate the parents.
Okay.
Don't walk behind a car that's got white lights on it. Use the sidewalk. Use the crosswalk. Yell at the people, get over here.
And I have to commend Harvey, because Harvey Elementary did something, completely different pattern. Even Miss Moreno was out there with her little jacket.
It's gotten better.
And it's gotten a heck of a lot better than what it was.
If you
So
add
we
them
can
back in
learn
there,
from it.
you might have the same issue again.
So we have to, you're exactly right, there's a huge education of citizens, the traffic patterns, everything associated with that. Has got to come into play. We've got to get people to understand that the school district has flashing lights for a reason. And it's common sense to know that kid or something is probably gonna dart out in front of you at any given time. You just gotta be careful that it doesn't all fall on our shoulders. We need to do our part, but we're gonna have to have some cooperation from the city and the county and parents and the community for that matter.
So that's just, I just want to get that one off my chest. I just see a possible nightmare occurring by an influx of students at specific elementary schools.
I don't see any more problem than that, than saying that we've got a school that's got 200 people in it that's built for 600. And we're going to increase the number of students going to that school by 400. We're still increasing the number of students. It's just a matter of where.
And a different way to look at it is rather than have 4 areas that you have to be concerned about safety, now you just have 3 that you have to be concerned.
Yeah, but
about.
the right there at Perez, that's a huge issue. It's
I
right there
agree.
on LCA off the main road.
I agree.
You've got kids walking across to go to the parking lot on 14th from the high school. Oh, goodness.
That may also be a good civil engineering program to
Exactly.
get
Teamwork.
traffic pattern or something. That's what we could do.
And then as a parent, my concern is
Anything with the sun rising in the east and all those cars are coming west. Got up 2 times a day.
grades. So we have a problem with grades, I guess, not so much in elementary school, but we have a smaller ratio in certain schools of students to teacher. And I'm looking at it as, okay, now you want to close a campus and send my kid who might be 14 or 15 students per teacher to a class that has 21, 22 per teacher. Now, as a parent, I'm concerned, is my child going to get the individual attention that he or she might have gotten with a 15-to-1 ratio? And if we're having a problem with grades, how will consolidation help the grades get better? That's one of my concerns or my thought process as a parent.
You're not seeing that right.
No, I'm a parent. I wonder if my child's gonna get individual attention.
Your kid's in an English class at Memorial. There's probably 21 or 22.
Your head's stuck up in the clouds at the high school all the time, and up in that area a lot. Well, it is. You don't really say a whole lot about elementary school. I mean, I was appalled when I first dropped my kid off at a kindergarten class, or excuse me, pre-K, and they only had 1 teacher. Same for kindergarten. I don't know one person I grew up with that didn't have a kindergarten teacher and an aide. My mother was a kindergarten teacher. She had an aide. Every class had one, but now that's not the case anymore. You don't have that individual attention at such a young age. We're supposed to teach you the basics, the foundational learning, and yet we're having a hard time with that right now, so to speak. Now you want to add an extra 7, 8 kids to the class.
And I can respect that what you're saying, but I can tell you as a father, and my daughter goes to CCISD, she's in a class of 22. So I understand where you're coming from, but it's reality.
Now, also, that's
I
another reason.
I don't want people, parents to be leaving and be like, oh, well.
But going back to reality.
Jubilee, let me take them there.
Then you know what, so be it. But what I'm saying is that I understand where you're coming from, because I'm a parent that has a 3rd grader. And I'm telling you, that's the class size in Corpus when she goes to school. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's a norm.
It's normal, it's normal for her.
But that's the whole reason we don't want to do RIF or get rid of teachers. I'm not in a hurry to get rid of teachers because we're going to need them. When we move 5th grade to elementary, we need those 5th grade teachers going with them. We're not looking at this boom in class sizes because I don't think we're going to have that many people leave us. I really don't.
We had just about a year or 2 ago when we added some elementary teachers to reduce the ratios.
Because we were gonna go 22 to 1 and we said no. We couldn't get a waiver. We're trying to go, we said no.
And I think you make a good point in that
Just a parent's perspective.
I don't have a problem with 25 and 30 kids in a high school class, maybe even in junior high. But when you get down into those elementary grades, you do need as much support as you possibly can. And if our focus is truly going to be on turning the ship around, you don't start the high school. You've got to start at those
Younger
young
grades.
grades, and we've got to get those kids reading and on level early on. And any resources we have to throw at that is the only way we're going to turn this ship around, because it's not going to be the athletic and the band and all of that that brings the students back. Because those aren't who left us in the beginning. It wasn't the athletes, it wasn't the band, because there weren't athletes and bands and some of these others. It was the achievers. It was the kids that, you know, we had a brain drain.
And the fact that there was a band to go to now, there was a football team to go to now.
Now
I'm gonna go to St. Katrina's now because they got that stuff now.
Yeah. But those weren't, that's not who left us at the
You're
beginning.
right, it's academics. But unfortunately, we're getting dinged twice. We're getting dinged, and it's sad, and I'll say it, I'm on record saying it, you gotta play. And it's sad, but this is what this has come to, and you've got to play the game with the people that are calling the shots, but we're getting dinged twice. And several times, and we can catch those fifth graders that don't pass. Before, we couldn't catch them. Now, if they can retest, and it gives another opportunity. Same thing with your eighth graders, am I correct? You've got an opportunity now. Now we've got a fighting chance. Now I got a dog in the fight. Let's fight.
Fifth grade was my problem.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about that fifth
Right,
grade. That was
correct,
my
correct.
problem. That was Gillette's problem.
Correct.
Now it's the elementary's out for
Yes, sir.
3, 4, 5,
Yes,
and it gives the middle school 2 years to get them ready for the eighth grade test, which should be the springboard into high school.
Right.
How many eighth graders do we have coming to the high school that they're not ready for high school? But
And
there's
his-
an extra year now.
Yes, and historically, I think looking back, when Kingsville went to this model, that's when it started going downhill.
Coming it down.
Well,
It started going downhill.
And you take away a transition, a whole transition, and every time there's a transition, it's just as easy for me to switch from Pettis to Gillette, Pettis to Bishop.
And another thing,
If I'm gonna be changing-
advantage of that is all of a sudden, a sixth grader thinks he's the big man on campus. Now he's not. He's the little guy. And that changes that mentality at a very critical age, especially for boys,
You're right.
especially for boys.
And I made that role. I mean, I was in school during the role that ninth grade was no longer at Gillette anymore. I went to 10th grade along with the ninth grade, and I was never the small fish on campus, or excuse me, the 8th and 9th grade. So, I mean, you're always going to be faced with those things.
These are difficult conversations.
Very.
And the problem is, if we don't do anything, we're gonna go broke. We don't have the money to keep going the way that we're going, so something has to be done. And again, the biggest two ways to do that are, one, to match staffing to meet the ratios of students that you have, and number two, to do the same thing with the facilities, have the number of facilities match the number of students. That's the way to a balanced budget.
When are we gonna do it to extra campuses? Because I would hate to see it fall apart and end up like the Play-Doh building.
Yeah, this is not an all or nothing. I mean, it's like, I think they just recommended 2 options, you know, that we could consider. I don't think the memorial to Gillette is gonna be a hard, no. I mean, you know, that's one less stop a kid has to make, you know. And no matter what, the kid was gonna go to Gillette and Memorial either way. So that's not gonna be a problem, except those diehard Mavericks, okay? So.
I was one.
And I was a Bobcat, I'm sorry. But hopefully in the future, we'll grow to where we can go back to a Memorial and Gillette little friendly rivalry. It was so much fun. And we'll be that big. But right now, I don't think that's gonna be the problem. I think the more concern would be the elementary, if we choose to consolidate an elementary or, you know, spread it out between the 3 campuses. That would require the boundaries. So if whether it's Clayburg or Harold, whoever it is, okay, you know, these kids go here, these kids go here, that's the harder conversation, I think, to have. So.
What percentage of, and you may not know this off the top, but what percentage of kids, and let's just use Clayburg for example, not this big as that, what percentage of Clayburg kids actually aren't brought to school by a means other than, I mean, they're not walking. I mean, I know the kids over in the housing project by, Gillette, they'll go to Claver. I mean, that's on the other side of town. They're going to Claver. They're moving anyway. So I mean, I'm just looking at that, and I'm just wondering, that general area, I don't think, that's kind of, I hate to say it, kind of a commuter elementary. I mean, you almost have to ride to that school. I mean, it's not right in the middle of the neighborhood like.
How many
Perez
people walking?
Or Harvey is, I mean.
Would you agree, Norma? Ms. Fellows?
Most of our kids come on the bus and few are brought by the parents.
But not many are walking from their house.
No.
Because there's not a housing, there's not a neighborhood there, my point, so those kids are kind of moving anyway. The other three elementaries tend to have at least.
Neighborhoods.
Neighborhood,
Yeah.
somewhat
Community
neighborhood based.
Right.
Which one, why did they put a high school out there at Claver Gateway that far? Because that's kind of out there in the middle of, right out in the middle of nowhere.
Go back in history, buddy.
Not in the day.
Oh, okay, well, I've only lived here 20 years. I'm looking.
It goes way back, brother, 100 years back. It's that tree. Past that tree.
Somebody planted that tree. You're right.
That tree, bud.
Now, the average class sizes right now at the elementaries are about 15, 16, 13, 12, 10, 11.
Which is
I
very
have
good.
very, very good, but so why the grades that they've been making?
Will they get worse as you increase it?
I'm gonna say this, and again, this is just my hypothesis, is curriculum. We've heard it so long. I mean, we just had nothing that was ever
Curriculum,
set in
professional
stone,
development.
to be honest with you. If I had, I'm not a betting man, but I'll bet that one.
It's the same problem that your AP teacher has when you start with kids that aren't ready at that level. I don't think they come, especially at Claver, and probably others as well. They're not coming knowing their alphabet. They're not coming knowing their sight words. I mean, that's all on the teacher. And so the teacher starts a couple of years behind on day one. You can't, and you're not gonna recover that in a year. You're gonna recover that maybe in 3 years if you're real good.
What's good is that they can show growth.
You show growth.
And that's what TEA is starting to measure us on, is growth. So if anything, there should be growth.
And I can just add to that, because you're right, because if you don't catch them early, I know Dr. Perez has been in several talks with the Head Start program, and they're working on some big things coming up to kind of these 2, 3, 4-year-olds to kind of get them transition, that we don't lose them. I know she's had a couple of meetings, am I correct, in talking with them to kind of, okay, look, we need to start setting the foundation. There is no reason why your kiddos or whoever are actually going down the road. So I know she's had several meetings with Head Start, which is a great partner, and I know they're working on some stuff, so hopefully try to combat some of that, because again, can't read and write, you're not gonna pass the test. That's unfortunate.
So is this board decision, obviously, when will this come to the table? Because this is obviously a next fiscal year recommendation, maybe in the fall, so.
It's probably going to take kind of another workshop, maybe with some community input.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
important.
we want to share with the town, with the
The town hall.
community, for sure.
And then again, there's gonna be some tough decisions, and it's unfortunate, but again, I think this board is committed to do what's right for kids and for this community. But again, I know we're gonna make the right decision, no matter what it is. And I will say this, the campus that I went to school back in the day, McRoberts, unfortunately, closed down. We're a blue ribbon school. It is what it is. I know people are uproar, but it is what it is. And unfortunately, put out some great people. But again, I know some of those, you hear that again, but again, it was for the best of students. And again, I know we'll make that decision here soon.
We're just gonna have to make some decisions, because we cannot continue with the
can't.
deficit this bad.
We're just gonna get deeper.
TEA taking over,
No, they're not gonna happen. I can assure you.
so we're gonna do some.
Do you have any ideas of what to use with 1 or 2 of the extra campuses, like a satellite office in case there's an emergency or?
We talked about that a little bit and offering it. I mean, if I don't know, maybe Head Start or some other programs that might want to rent it, because they need space. I mean, in talking with I don't know if they would, but just, I have no idea. We'd have to kind of.
And one thing I will say, and I'm gonna tell you, because you told me, is there something maybe looking in the future, Dr. Perez's plans and her staff, it is starting an early childhood development class.
So that's something I know she's been working at, but she's gonna start working because again, it's something she knows she's it's very dear to her. It's kind of what they have at the one in London, the Early Scholars. I know she's kind of throwing it around a little bit. Again, it's not gonna happen tonight, not gonna happen tomorrow, but I know it's something in her long vision that she has for this district, which would help out immensely.
It's in our best interest to get excess campuses back on the tax rolls.
That's correct. There's your answer.
Well, and also buses. We should be planning for the obsolescence of certain materials and be putting aside money into a fund that says, we're expecting a bus to die and never run again next year. But we put together money for the past 3 years expecting that to happen. And there's several different maintenance issues that we need to bring to the front and actually be putting money away into an account.
Right, we shouldn't be waiting until something breaks down. There should be a replacement policy for technology, for vehicles, for big equipment like HVAC, for roof repair and so on. So this is not gonna be extra money that we're gonna be getting. This is money that we need to have done things that we haven't done in a long time and that we need to have to every 3-5 years get on that repair and replacement policy.
Can I ask a question? Have we ever considered maybe leasing? Because I hear a lot of districts lease. But again, I don't know what the cost is or what it is, but I've heard of a lot of districts that lease.
We did that at West Oso, we went to leasing them instead because it was paying so much money.
Yeah, just an option.
We studied that a couple of years, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and at the time it wasn't feasible, but that doesn't
What do
mean
you
it
do with
shouldn't
the
be.
ones that can't work anymore?
The ones we have here,
What do you, what do you do?
hopefully somebody's driving back through 77 south.
Sorry?
Somebody going back through 77, going back south from South. Good old auction.
It depends on a lot of things. If it's a bus that's common to your fleet, then it really does become realistic to make it a hangar thing, because you can pull thousands of dollars of parts off of it, you know? And then eventually it becomes, you take it to the junkyard and it's around the parking track. But if it's something that's an oddball, then you get rid of it, just get rid of it.
We're gonna, because of timing, we'll probably have to have a town hall meeting pretty quickly, to give, community time to give some input, which would be, I guess, about the 2 options and how they feel about it. I don't know, about narrowing down if we decided on an elementary, how that goes.
And what I can tell you probably, speaking on behalf of the board, is it'd be your recommendation to bring to the board.
Now, just to make sure I'm straight, we can do both, right?
We can do both.
Whatever recommendation, my deal is her recommendation and her staff.
But I don't see them as being mutually exclusive,
No,
because they don't,
absolutely
they
not.
really don't step on each other's toes.
No, they don't step on each other's toes. And really, if we're gonna do something like this, probably the best year to do it is this year. Because next year, the accountability and everything else is gonna go up quickly when everybody's back from COVID. So we just need to make these decisions as quickly as possible.
Does anybody have any other questions when it comes to our workshop that we just had? Anything on the taskbook, financial management? Nobody has anything else? Again, we do have a board meeting next Monday to discuss a couple of more topics. And before I adjourn, I want to wish the boys basketball the best of luck tomorrow. Well, congratulations, Greg. The board members showed up, thank you. And I wish you luck on Wednesday, heading to Pleasanton, be safe. And again, Wednesday at 7 o'clock, correct, Coach? It's Pleasanton, Mr. Ryder?
Yes, sir.
7 o'clock in Pleasanton, Texas. And again, at this time, I'll adjourn the workshop at 7:40. Please be safe.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You're right, yeah.